Good morning, madam. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are
Nice.
you?
I'm fine.
How is Delhi? It is low temperature is 10 or 15.
Yeah. It's getting colder day by day.
Yes. Naturally, December is like that only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough time.
Yes. Now, the good number actually it is crossing 250
Oh,
registration. We'll see
okay.
actually how many people will attend. Good morning.
Good morning, Ramaiah.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, Professor.
Oh, good, good. People are excited. Registration crossed 250.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Good number.
But how many people will join? We need to get to see.
Absolutely.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dr. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. There was some problem with the internet here. So, anyways,
Sir. Shall we start, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sir. Good morning to all for joining the online workshop on open education resources for open and distance learning organized by the Directorate of Distance Education and Ananda Rangapillai Library of Pondicherry University. I am really grateful that today we have our most honorable Vice-Chancellor, Professor Gurmeet Singh ji, with us for the inauguration as chief guest. Good morning and namaskar, sir. Welcome to the online workshop. First of all, I would like to actually introduce our Vice-Chancellor. It gives me immense pleasure in introducing our honorable Vice-Chancellor, Professor Gurmeet Singh ji, who made this university vibrant after taking over, while it was suffering in a great turmoil. He is an internationally known academician and expert in corrosion chemistry. He is having 4 decades of teaching, research and administrative experience at the University of Delhi, one of the top universities in the country. He has produced a large number of PhDs, MPhils, and published over 200 papers and several books. He was given the research paper award by the Electrochemical Society of India of Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore in 1991. After his taking over as Vice-Chancellor, the university has progressed rapidly in all directions, and I am fortunate to work with him. Over and above, he is a very good human being. Once again, I welcome you, sir, to this online workshop. Now, I would like to request Honorable Vice-Chancellor, Professor Gurmeet Singh ji, to give his presidential address.
Thank you very much, Professor Ramaiah. Professor Rajeev Jain, our Director of Culture, and all other faculty members and the guests outside who have joined this workshop. I deem it a great honor to be here with you for this very important workshop, which is dealing with the open resources which could be there for our DD learning. When we started our this year, after the completion of our last year's academic year, we were faced with a very unprecedented situation wherein this pandemic struck, and on 22nd March, the first day of lockdown, we were all wondering whether we will ever be able to get back to a kind of a normal lifestyle this year or not. And 23rd onward, we were completely locked in, and for the first 2 months probably, the society and all institutes, all offices, everybody started getting into a kind of a depressive situation, wherein they were all wondering what exactly next. That question bothered everybody, but hats off to our IT experts and the way we fought this, the way we controlled this pandemic. We started gradually limping back to a kind of a normal lifestyle. And in that case, our distance education, open learning systems all over the country started playing a very important role. Now, they would obviously be able to serve the academic institutions all over and our students' community in general, wherever they have been connected with this, in the best of ways, if we have right kind of resources available to everyone. Now, here comes the role of our open learning, and the way you put it as distance learning. Somewhere people also call it as corresponding courses. They would be able to serve in the best of ways if the resources are available to them. Now, what way we have to, because the need for these resources have gone up many folds. It is not what it was during the normal of the universities, during the normal hours, during the normal times. We were all having everything available, and whenever anything required for this DD, distance learning, or as you call it, open learning, we would be able to make use of all the normal resources of the universities. But now with this, libraries having closed all over, universities not functioning in a normal manner, the attendance of students not being there in the usual sense, the classwork which normally goes on is not there. And what we notice, or what we find out, what we find all over is that people struggle to get this. And there is an apprehension amongst the students and amongst the parents whether they should be joining the regular university teaching, regular colleges or not. That is where a thinking is being developed all over. People are thinking on these lines that it will be better if we go in for distance learning. And in the kind of this pandemic that we are facing, distance learning is what people are getting encouraged into. And once more number of students are going to take on this style of education, the role of our distance education institutions all over the country, and as I said, in certain places they also call it correspondence courses. Now the role of correspondence courses would become very important, and they would be able to serve the society, the students community in the best of ways if the resources are available to them. Now how best we can develop these resources, how best these can be reached to students community, how can the universities and the corresponding institutions would be able to gel very well, it is something which needs to be worked out, which needs to be discussed. As I said earlier on, if we needed 100 copies of certain things, now with the increased numbers all over, the demand has gone manifold. And how best to reach, how best to achieve, how best to develop under the present circumstances is a big question. And I'm sure the directors, the managers, the chiefs of these distance education learning places have discussed earlier during this and are constantly in touch with one another. And they are trying to develop, they are trying to arrive at certain methods by which, certain systems by which we can serve the students community in the best of ways. Not that whatever conventional we had, we will be only dealing with those. They are even constantly updating. They have held meetings whereby the syllabi can be updated, the modern changes which are needed in the present time pertaining to everything. I'm talking about all subjects in general. Suppose if you take political science, it is not what it was in April or May. It is changing every day. And our educators here in distance mode learning are constantly deliberating to keep all these changes which are on in their syllabi. So they are not only using the stagnant resources, stagnant courses, they are also updating, they are also thinking of changing, they are meeting, they are regularly devising by which modern changes which are required can be incorporated. So when they are to be incorporated, when the demand goes up, when the number goes up, I think we need to really think about what way to provide resources, what way to manage the rush that is in suddenly. We never expected that this will come in demand in such a big number. But now, since it is there, I really compliment all over our distance educator in charges and directors and those who are managing different courses. I really appreciate the way they have come up and the way they have taken up this challenge of meeting this side of our education in the best possible manner. And Professor Ramaiah has been constantly, I've been seeing for the last 2 months, you will be amazed, practically every week there is something or the other which is being discussed. Either there is a workshop every week in which people are regularly conveyed what best way we can use online resources, what best way we can make use of our online books, online material, what way we can present these, what way we can lecture. All these finer points about education are being dealt in with the organization of such workshops. And it is not once. It is not one of those rarities that this is the only one which has been organized. As I said, in the last 2 months, I have seen practically every week something or the other is being organized for the benefit of students and for the benefit of communities. And it is in that line that this today's workshop is being organized, in which I'm sure there are many experts who would be presenting their viewpoints and who would be talking about what is the best way to use academics for the benefit of society under the present circumstances. I would urge my youngsters who are participating here that they should, in the best possible manner, try to clarify their doubts with the experts. They should not hesitate in asking questions. And as I said, the present time through which we are passing is absolutely different. We never imagined that we'll be into a trap of this kind, I'll say. It's a trap of negativity of medicines, which some countries have come up with, and then the whole world is facing their wrath. I am sure we'll be able to come out of it. People have done very well. Vaccines have been developed all over the world. We are trying to fight it out. Not only that, we are even trying to fight out in a manner that we are able to develop a resistance so that such a pandemic never occurs in future. But then, if you have heard the lecture of David Houghton, who was here recently online, along with Dr. Guleria of AIMS and Dr. S.K. Serene, an eminent gastroenterologist, when they discussed, he said it is not going to be the end. There may be many more pandemics in the future, but we should be ready to fight the system. And the scientific world is constantly engaged, constantly trying to develop ways and means by which we can avoid all these things in future. So this is a line, this is a step in that line. This organization of this workshop is a step in that direction, that what way we can continue to use our educational resources even in the worst of time. And this is a very positive step in that direction. I compliment our Distance Education Learning Center, headed by Professor Ramaiah, that he's taken the lead in organizing this workshop for the benefit of everybody. I would, as I said, I would appreciate if our youngsters can make best use of this, because they are the ones who have to really put this in practice. And all those resource persons who will be joining us, I am personally grateful to them for their time and effort. And as I said, when we can all sit together and deliberate, I think the best way forward would be emerging out of this. And therefore, I appreciate everybody's effort, and I wish this workshop a grand success, particularly from the point of view of students and students community all over. They are the ones who will be reaping the best benefit out of this. Thank you so very much. I wish them a grand success, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this encouragement and enlightening with us actually your presidential address about the role of open and distance learning. And I'm really grateful for sparing your valuable time on Sunday morning, being holiday. And I know that you have actually many other programs today. And thank you very much once again, sir. Now we have actually one more guest, Professor Rajeev Jain, our Director, Culture and Cultural Relations, whom I would like to invite to the workshop. Namaskar, sir. And I would like to introduce him also. It gives me immense pleasure in introducing the respected Professor Rajeev Jain, who is the present Director of the Culture and Cultural Relations of Pondicherry University. He is also an internationally known academician and expert in chemistry. He is having 36 years of teaching, research and administrative experience at Jivaji University, Gwalior, and he has produced a large number of PhDs and published actually about over 350 papers and several books. And he has received actually this DSc in 1990, and both DD and libraries under him, which I am actually now presently looking after. And I once again would like to welcome you, sir, to the online workshop. Now I would like to request you to give your welcome remarks to this online workshop.
Thank you, Professor Ramaiah, for your kind words. Honorable Vice-Chancellor of the University, Professor Gurmeet Singh, Directorate of Distance Education and University Librarian, Dean, School of Mass Media, Professor Ramaiah, resource persons, participants, faculty of the university, research scholars, and dear students. It is my pleasure to be with you at the time of inauguration of the workshop, online workshop on open educational resources for open and distance learning being organized by Directorate of Distance Education and Ananda Rangapillai Library, Pondicherry University. Open education resources are digital materials available freely to use and adapt to their teaching, learning and research. This workshop participants will learn about step-by-step instructions on how and where to find, adapt and use open education resources, various Creative Commons licenses and copyright issues. So the importance of open education resources has increased in post-COVID days. Now there are two different eras, pre-COVID and post-COVID days. There is a distinct rupture between the two. Earlier, although distance courses were there, known as correspondence courses for awarding degrees, but after post-COVID era, the importance of these distance learning resources has increased many folds. Even if we see in the primary education, secondary education, postgraduate college education, now we have online teaching, online resources in every field. So this type of workshops, as Professor Ramaiah is organizing since last 2 or 3 months continuously, on giving the information where to find right information. If we are doing research, if we are studying science, in science, where to find out different journals, how to use resources like Scopus, Science Finders. If we are doing research in management, how to use Emerald resources. Similarly, even for writing and expressing English, he conducted a very important workshop on grammar, how to write correct English, which is a very important thing. Earlier, this type of workshop was not there, and more importance was used to given to our regular courses, physical courses, not to correspondence courses. But now the post-COVID era, the situation has changed. Now the importance of online resources, online workshops, online lectures has emerged manifold and got importance. Therefore, to find out the things from where we can find these resources, it is very important. For that, Professor Ramaiah is doing a great service to the student as well as to the faculty by organizing such type of workshops so that people may know, students may know, research scholars may know from where to collect our data, to collect our various types of problems, discuss them, and do research and teaching in different ways. So I congratulate Professor Ramaiah for organizing workshop on open educational resources for open and distance learning, and I hope this workshop will be very useful as workshops conducted by him earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your welcome remarks and encouragement and support all through. You are giving actually both to the DDE and library, and I'm really grateful for sparing actually your valuable time on Sunday morning And now I would like to give an overview of the online workshop. And the reasons for doing this is that recently I've gone through a report on the guidelines on distance education during COVID-19 prepared by Commonwealth of Learning during this year, 2020. I noticed actually some important points about open education resources, which I would like to share with you. In that report, section 2.1 deals with actually guidelines for the government, all the governments of course. Says adopt an over this one OER policy, open education resources policy that will promote the development and sharing of quality content. And there is another guidelines actually which for the educational institution. They say point D says provide incentives to teachers to curate and develop OER specific to the curriculum. The other point says actually the share course content developed and curated by the faculty members through an institutional, the open education resources repository to facilitate access by anyone, anywhere, anytime. So these are all very important actually, and I thought that this will be useful. There are another actually the guidelines given to the academicians and supporting staff. Integrate OERs in teaching and learning. Using existing OER, reduce the time to develop the course and help teachers to focus on interaction and student support. Teachers can draw on quality OERs from around the world in various formats and adapt these to local context. So based on these three guidelines, I thought actually this is an appropriate time to use, and then I met the Honorable Vice-Chancellor and discussed, and I took his guidance and he encouraged me to go on with this, and this is the outcome of that of course. So the term of open education resources was created in the year 2002 in the UNESCO Forum on the impact of the open courseware for higher education in the developing countries. Policies were framed, and this actually helped us, of course, to do that. And open education resources are teaching and learning research materials in any medium, particularly the digital form, which are available in public domain or have been actually released under open license that permits no cost access, use, adoption, and redistribution by others with no or limited restrictions. The OER form parts and open solutions along with free and open source software, open access, open data, and crowd sharing platforms. So under this, we have actually open courseware, learning modules, open textbooks, streaming videos, open access journals, open tutorials, digital learn objects. So many resources are available. So they are all freely available, open licensed resources. And because of that, actually, we can really make use of for the teaching and learning process, both actually regular courses and distance courses. Distance students actually requires a larger amount of resources. In that case, actually, we thought this will be a good platform to actually to introduce to my teachers, colleagues, and actually scholars and students, of course. So DD and actually in that context, DD and actually Rangapillai Library jointly organizing this online workshop to introduce to the faculty members, research scholars, and students for the benefit of the teaching and learning. So I'm really happy that the registration has actually crossed over 250, but actually many people joined. Of course, some may be joining, and if they have any inconveniences, I am sorry for that. So today we have actually 4 eminent experts speakers who are actually experts at the national level. Professor Kanjilal from IGNOU, Professor Sunder Krishnan from IIT Madras, and Dr. Manas Ranjan actually Pondicherry from Commonwealth of Learning, Professor Singh from Delhi University. These are the prominent speakers. Forenoon 2 speakers we have, of course, afternoon 2 speakers, of course, and this session will go from morning to the evening, of course, with a lunch break. So now actually the first speaker is actually Professor Kanjilal, and I would like to actually give a short bio about her. And before actually her the lecture starting, sir, at this stage actually I would like to thank both my Vice Chancellor and Director for coming all the way, actually sparing their time, valuable time, and blessing us. Sir, if you have any other appointments, you can carry on, and we will go along with this workshop. Sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and all the very best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So the first speaker is actually Professor Kanjilal, and I would like to give a brief introduction about her. She is presently the professor and head of the Department of Library and Information Science at IGNOU, New Delhi, and she is also currently the director of School of Social Sciences. She joined actually as a lecturer in 1989, and she is specialist in actually ICT applications, and she worked on actually multimedia courseware development during her Fulbright fellowship in the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign during 1999 to 2000. So I would like to thank her for coming all the way and taking time coming all the way and actually sparing her experience, because she is very much experienced nationally. She is actually looking after the SWAYAM platform, and she is the one, if at all you are doing any of your courses, she is the one signing actually your certificates. That you should know, of course. So once again, thank you, madam. Thank you very much for coming all the way. And she will be talking to us on actually the open educational resources for open and distance learning. Over to Professor Kanjilal.
Namaskar. Respected Vice-Chancellor, Pondicherry University, Professor Gurmeet Singh ji, Professor Rajeev Jain, Director, Culture and Cultural Relations, Pondicherry University, Professor C.K. Ramaiah, Dean of SOMAC and University Librarian in charge, my fellow resource persons, Professor Mangala Sunder, Professor Dr. Manas Ranjan Panigrahi, Dr. Savitri Singh, dear participants, good morning to all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank Pondicherry University and the organizing committee for inviting me for this to talk on a topic which is very close to my heart actually, and it's really a pleasure to be part of this workshop. So give me a moment, I'll just start my presentation. So presentation is visible?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll be talking about open educational resources for open and distance learning. Basically, already Dr. Ramaiah mentioned that this OER term was in fact coined in 2002 in the UNESCO forum. So when we talk about OER, exactly what it is an educational resource in that incorporates a license that facilitates reuse and adaptation without first requesting permission from the copyright holder. And I think throughout the day, you will be understanding the different nuances of open educational resources, exactly what it is, what it comprises, and how you can use it. So I'll be focusing more from the ODL point of view as ODL practitioners, how best we can actually start using OER when we are in our teaching learning processes. If you refer to the National Knowledge Commission recommendations that was given in 2007, it clearly says that, it recognized the role of OER in improving the quality of education. It talked about creation of a national foundation to develop a web-based repository of high-quality educational resources as OER through collaborative processes. And also talked about enabling legal framework that would allow unrestricted access without compromising on the intellectual authorship, and that has to be devised for this purpose. So if you look into that, the thought of OER started way back, and it is very much a part of the National Knowledge Commission's recommendations way back in 2007. As a result of this, actually there was a lot of development of OER started, and that too also with the national mission, that NMAICT that took off in 2009. That is National Mission on Education through ICT. Now, when we talk about OER, what exactly we are talking about, and what kind of content we are talking about? It could be a complete courseware. It could be even software tools like a learning management system. It could be open material for e-learning, which can be used for the purpose of capacity building of faculty, staff, repositories of learning objects, free educational courses, visiting lectures. like whatever lecture we are giving today, it could be actually it's getting recorded, and it can be reused, in fact, in future if it is provided as open license material. Imported courseware in variety of media, inter-institutional programs, you come up with collaborative content that are developed which can be shared, and also some sponsored content that is developed that can become. So anything that comes under OER, the basic thing we need to understand is they are available under open licenses. So that's very important. After 2002, in fact, actually the whole initiative towards the OER started with the open courseware from the MIT, and we today have Open Educational Consortium from the MIT. In fact, a number of institutions got together and they are producing a lot of OER content, in fact. Then we have Open Learning Initiative of Carnegie Mellon, Khan Academy, UK Open University Open Learn Initiative, OpenStax, OER Commerce, Merlot. Merlot is interesting in a sense that you have a lot of multimedia content available there. We have Kariki, another interesting platform where you get actually the curriculum, open curriculum that's available, and which can be actually curated and used for developing your curriculum. That is there. And then we have the Commonwealth of Learning, Wiki Educator, a lot of content made available. And way back in 2006, 2007, a lot of initiatives started on the Wiki Educator. At the national level, we again had a lot of initiatives coming up. It started in the beginning of 2001, 2, somewhere like that. The NPTEL project that came up, which actually developed a lot of content for engineering and technology. And Professor Mangala Sunder, who was actually the main figure behind this NPTEL program, he will be speaking about that today. Then we have the Sakshat portal from MHRD. It started somewhere in 2005. And then actually the whole idea was to have a single platform where you have all the content in one place. And available as open education resources. Other initiatives like Virtual Lab, then a lot of content development happened after 2009 for the UG courses by CEC and EPG Pathshala under this thing UGC. So as such, if we talk about, there was a surge of developing open education resources way back from the 2002 onwards. And in fact, a major thrust was given when we had this NME-ICT started in 2009. So projects were initiated and a lot of content got developed throughout. And the best part of this that in 2014, the ministry took a decision that this content that has been developed under NME-ICT will be made available as open educational resources. So everything that is available under the NME-ICT, they're available as CC by SA, under the CC by SA license. And I think you will get to know further about it, what it exactly is when Dr. Sabiti Singh talks about the Creative Commons license policy. So these are the initiatives that we had. The EPG Pathshala developed by UGC, a lot of content developed. It was actually PG level content in 77 disciplines, and they further developed it into e-Adhyan. So the content that were developed were in 4-quadrant approach. It had a lot of text material, audio, video, and everything, and they compiled them into ebooks, and it's available. If you go to InflibNet site, it will get, or EPG Pathshala site, you will get them available in the form of ebooks as e-Adhyan project. And also they have the offline access of the content also. So if you request them, they will be providing, and this is under the ePathya initiative of UGC, in fact. CEC came up with the UG level courses in 87 disciplines. Then we had another interesting project from IIT Bombay. This is spoken tutorial. 10 minutes tutorial developed. It's just an audio tutorial developed a very cost-effective way, in fact, to reach out the learners. And this are mainly for teaching software, different applications and other things. And a lot of videos are available, especially those who are teaching computer science or teaching some software or applications. You will find already content available which can be repurposed and reused for your running your courses. Then the virtual labs, actually IIT Delhi initiated this with other IITs together, and they have now hundreds of virtual labs available, which can be actually integrated with your courses that you are offering. So we have somewhere around, more than 100 experiments that can be conducted. It could be, in a simulated form, or it could be using a user-friendly synchronized platform that can be done. So they even had some experiments developed where you can actually conduct the remotely triggered experiments. So, but basically most of the experiments are in the simulated engine running behind that. Now, if you look into UNESCO Paris Declaration, I think Dr. Manas will be talking a lot about these things. It clearly talks about that it's just not, developing a library of OER is fine, but that's not enough. You have to facilitate finding, retrieving, and sharing of OER. How do you do? So the major problem that one comes up, a lot of OER may have been developed, but the searching becomes a major challenge, in fact. So it talks about, actually, the declaration talks about encouraging development of user-friendly tools to locate, retrieve OER that are specific and relevant to a particular need. So that you have actually, I think here is where actually our library science professionals can play a great role in indexing the OERs that are available and customize the search according to the user requirements. This is where we need to come in. A lot of search engines have been developed. They are available. I'm not going into the details. Even the Creative Commons, they have search engines. And a lot of them customized as per the requirements that are there, which needs to look into. This is actually Creative Commons search platform that it has, and you can search through the type of content that you're looking for, whether you're looking for images or media or from a particular platform also, you can search through. So pinpointed search is possible. The best part is the National Digital Library of India. This is a project, in fact, which is part of the National Mission on Education through ICT, that is NME ICT, where we had a major project which focused more on the indexing of the OER content that got developed over the years at the national level. So whether we talk about institutions like IITs, like under the NPTEL project, the content of the NCERT, content of other institutions, or we talk about the content OERs that were developed under the NME ICT, this got indexed, in fact, one place. So this is a platform which we call it as a discovery engine, where you can search through different search terms or search levels. Even they have levels, like if you want to look for OER content available for higher education, or you're looking for school level, even a class level, say standard 2, 3, so you can actually search through it. They have compiled it index it in a manner that search becomes easy. So this is one platform actually that has indexed millions of content that are available as OER, and you need to look into it if you're searching for some OER content. Now comes the question how one can use the OER, and we talk about 5 R's of OER. What are these 5 R's? you can retain the content that is there, right? Once you have a content, you have searched through, accessed it, you have control over the copy. You can use it for your own purpose. You can reuse, in a sense that you have the right, and the content, you can actually use it for different purposes. You can use it in your classroom when you are teaching, or distribute among the study group, or make it available on the institution website. So this is how you can actually reuse the content. Revise is that you have, depending on the license, level of license availability, you can adapt, adjust, modify as per your requirement. So customization of the content taken from OER is possible if it gives you right to revise. So this is one important thing that one needs to look into. Then we have the remixing of content also possible when we use OER, which means that you can take content from different sources and combine them, compile them as per your requirement, and you can come up with a self-learning material using OER taken from different sources. So you can actually use them as mashups incorporated within the course. And the fifth important R, that is redistribute, is it provides you right to share a copy also. You can repurpose it and redistribute it as you want, but it will depend on the level of the license that the creator is giving. So you need to look into this. That's most important. So one important caution is that we think that whatever is available in open domain is free and we can actually use them as OER. No, that's not possible. So questions come in that, can I Google the image I need and use them? No, you cannot. You have to check in under what license it is available, if it is giving you a right to reuse or not. So freely available doesn't mean free to use. Very good example, IGNOU, we have our eGyan course, all our content made available, but they are under open access policy, which means that you can, for your own purpose, you can use the material. A lot of content we have developed, all our self-learning material is available, but you are not free to reuse, repurpose, or do it, because it's not available as OER. Copyright is there. So, and similarly about YouTube also, if you have videos available, you cannot just use it just like that. So you have to be very careful. And I think Dr. Savitri Singh's presentation on Creative Commons and open licenses, that's going to be very important to understand at what level and how you can use the content that is available under open domain even as Creative Commons, under Creative Commons license policy. So how do we go about using this OERs and how we can make adaptations of them? So you can actually directly, depending on the license policy that is there on the content, you can make changes on the work itself. Some example could be you reuse in educational material, translating the content. If you have content available in English, you can actually translate it into Tamil. So this is adaptation that you are doing. Contextualize, put in your examples as per your local requirements, and you reuse it. Changing the voiceover on a video. If you have an English voiceover, you can make it into a different language and reuse it. So incorporating certain images and other things. Maybe you have a video that's available under open license. You want to make changes. You can incorporate those changes. You can put in audio, video clips as you wish and repurpose it. That's again possible. And also remixing content from different sources. Already I mentioned about that. That's also possible. So what are the ways, how do we adopt the OERs that are available? So these are, the ways you can go about. You can actually replace, that is, if you have a content, if you are, suppose, offering a course and you want to actually simply, the content is outdated, you don't have any time to actually create the fresh content, what you can do, if some OER is available, take that OER straight away and substitute in the place that where the revision is required. So simple substitution is possible. You can realign it. So you have certain objectives that are spelled out when you develop your self-learning material, and you can actually realign with the available OERs that are there and make it available. And another, that is the best part. If you can go in, think of open pedagogy. Simply have content where actually anyone can contribute. You can take content. In fact, in IGNOU, we ran a course on e-learning, which was completely based on OER. No self-instructional material was developed for that purpose. And it was just actually the content where instead of SLM, we provided OER links. And then we had that built around activities on that for that purpose. So think in terms of open pedagogy. You don't have to have a structured curriculum available, and you can actually redesign the thing as you wish. So this is something where you can do a lot of adoption is possible and the way. But then if you want to do these things, I think what is needed is a platform. You need some kind of platform, OER platform, which can leverage the inherent shareability of OER to build communities of interest. And if we talk about communities of interest, different communities will have different requirements when we talk about OERs. For instance, a faculty would be looking for easy authoring tools in a platform where you can actually integrate, design a curriculum using OER and taking from different sources. So they will need a platform for that purpose. Institutions will require, I think, to look into available OERs that are there and integrate with their content management system or a learning management system, so that in future, if you're running online programs, you can straight away integrate the OERs. In fact, there was a thought going on like integrating NDL with the SOAM platform, so that you have actually SOAM works as a classroom where you have the transactions of teaching learning happening, and the NDL works as a library, which actually the resources are provided. So that kind of an integration would be required. So you need a platform for that purpose as well. And then you need for the student point of view, they will be looking for the search and access to OER. So this has to be very user-friendly platform where they can easily search content as per their requirement, their courses that they are looking for. This is where a lot of, I think, libraries can play a great role in indexing the content and providing metadata which can help the learners to search their own content. So basically, when we talk about an OER platform, I think these are the basic functionalities that should be available. It should be able to host diverse content. There should be seamless integration with the content management system and learning management system. Another thing is that it should be multi-platform compatible, which means that you can use it on the mobile as well as on the your learning management system. Mobile or the web. You need a lot of authoring tools that will help in actually developing the content, and this is specifically required by the faculty to develop their content. It should be providing you the facility of ingesting content and curating content. So it's not just searching that is enough. One should be able to ingest content through different sources, through different resources, and also able to curate. When we talk about curate, it will be again in two levels. It will be from the metadata level as well as curating the content in a sense that you can repurpose that content, where again the authoring tools can play an important role. And also it needs to be having the facility of discovery so that one can discover and adopt. So these are the functionalities that need to be worked on a OER platform. That's very important. And I think this is where one area which is lacking, and we need to. A lot of repositories are available, a lot of resources are available. We don't have a single platform where we can actually incorporate these functionalities so that it becomes a win-win situation for all. So all the stakeholders that we are talking about. This is one area I think focus is required. Now, talking about authoring tools, there are a number of tools. I think when we develop, perhaps EXE is a very good tool. So the faculty members who are developing your OER content, you can have a look into the EXE. Very simple tool, just download and use it. You can actually, the best part is you can actually create multimedia content taken from different sources, and you can make it available as, you can package it as a SCORM compliant content. It could be used for the websites, it could be used for the mobile, it can be integrated with your learning management system. So you can create, this is a tool that you should look into. And this, very easy to use and available across platforms, even for it's not just for Windows, Linux and Mac also, it's available. So think about it, using it and creating. I think one needs to actually, when we talk about tools, there are a number of tools are available. What is needed is integrating them in creating the resources. Cam Studio is another tool. Very easily you can actually access that. It's again open source tool which can be used for screencasting purposes. In fact, the spoken tutorial I talked about, the OERs that were developed, it was simply using the Cam Studio. And this 10 minutes videos that they create, with the screencasting facility, that's one you can think of, in fact. And simple.
Welcome to the spoken tutorial.
Then there are other tools. I'm not going into the details. Like if you want to go in for multimedia content development, you have again open source application like Blender, and you can have high level 3D animations, simulations developed using that. So these, and then for the audio editing and compilation, you can use Audacity, and for video you have Jahaska. So what I'm talking about is, when we talk about OER platform and you won't want to have authoring tools, why not have these tools integrated in the platform so that one can actually use them for the purpose of repurposing the content that are available as OERs, and reuse them and adapt for the learners as they want. There's another tool, I think everyone has started using it, OBS Studio. If you can actually develop, you can use it as a platform to have your video recordings done, or you can even use it for the purpose of streaming. So these are some of the open source tools that we need to look into. Now, the major question comes, I have OERs, I have repurposed, I have reused. How do I publish? I think Dr. Manas will be talking about it. I saw in the topic that he's going to talk about. He will be talking about how to publish, where to publish, and you have Creative Commons guidelines that tells you how to go about and how you can apply the CC licenses that are available. So, but it's very important that before you publish, you check that it fulfills the license requirements, material that you're using to publish properly, attributions are given, and be careful in using the logos that might be trademarked. So you have to, it's not just the content, you have to see the other aspects also. So you have to look into if some logos are used, whether you can reuse and all those things. So these are certain cautions that are there. These are the publishing platforms that you can think of. Again, all open. You can just have accounts on them. If you're talking about images, go to Flickr, go to Instagram, have audio on SoundCloud, videos on YouTube, Vimeo, whatever you want, documents on Scribd, WordPress, blog, whatever it is. So a lot of, if you look into a lot of social web tools are already available. So publishing is not an issue. How you publish and how you actually make it available under the open license, that is something very important that needs to be looked into. Now coming to the ODL aspect, in fact, we have Indian Declaration, which talks about a framework for action, and under the Sustainable Development Goal 4, Target 3.43, it clearly says that a well-established, properly regulated education system supported by technology, open educational system, OERs, and distance education modalities can increase access, equity, quality, and relevance, and narrow the gap between what is taught at tertiary education institutions and what economies and societies demand. This is an important statement where we talk about OERs and ODL. So this is, we need to work on and how best actually. So, I mean, this will ensure inclusiveness that we talk about and equitable access to the world. So distance education is, I think, where we have been struggling over the years, developing the content. And if you look at distance ODL that we talk about, open and distance learning, we have gone through phases. Now we talk about 5th generation of ODL that we have. First generation where we talked about correspondence education, it was just content mailed through, it was just based on the print technology, then followed by multimedia model based on print, audio, video that were supplemented. Then we had 3rd generation, which talked about telelearning model based on, so we have teleconferencing brought in, we had broadcasting of the channels, in fact, Gyan Darshan started, in fact. And then the 4th generation talked about flexible learning model based on online delivery via the internet. So once internet came in, we started thinking of blended, that we're talking about blending ODL systems with the technology enabled learning thing. The 5th generation is something that has actually changed how we look into. It talks about, in fact, flexible learning model based on interactive nature of the internet. So that's why we are now talking about artificial intelligence, big data, learning analytics in distance education as well. So over the years, if you look into the distance education, you can actually, how we developed over the years. Initially 85 to 95, we were building the foundations of ODL system. So a lot of emphasis on the self-learning material was there. Then in 95 to 2006, communicating, connecting, and collaborating through interactive media. We talked about radio, television that came in. Then came the 2007 onwards, increased reach, access to the unserved segments. Blended mode was in. We were using internet. In fact, we started using it. We had, some bit of interaction through the net and other things. But post-COVID, I think everything has changed. We now talk about disruptions in education. Learners create. So now what is happening is learners, they are creating their own learning path, and teachers need to be the facilitators. Now, if learners are to create their own learning path, I think the role of OER is the most important. We need to have OER repositories in place so that they can, the learners have the facility to search for, look for the content that they are looking for their learning, teaching, learning purposes, in fact. And teachers at the facilitators need to direct the learners to search through the proper, content that they're looking for, and with a guide beside. Post-COVID, in fact, during the COVID, you must have seen from government, Ministry of Education, a lot of publicity on the content that have been developed over the years came in. In fact, every day they were advertising. There were mails coming from the ministry to the different institutions talking about the platforms that are there, which can be used for the purpose of teaching, learning, and directing the learners to go through this courses, open courses that are available, open educational resources that are available, that is where I think a big change came, and people again started revisiting OER. Because almost, if you look into the, surprisingly, if you look into national education policy, it doesn't mention about OER at all, but it talks about resources that are to be used. It talks about digital learning, online learning, but somehow the term itself has been missed out. So actually, after the COVID, in fact, realization that OERs are important came in fact, and ministry has been giving a big push for that. So these are some of the major initiatives. I already mentioned about that. You just visit the Ministry of Education website and they have listed. So if you're looking for OERs, you will be getting the links where to go in for. I think institutions need to compile them, and it could be best as if they can further index them and make it available. That will be useful for the learners, in fact. And if you see during that period, COVID, it was a huge surge because all ministry was publicizing, institutions themselves, they were asking their learners to look for the content that are there in different platforms. And this was a huge surge that came in. So if we talk about disruptions in education post-COVID, in fact, these are some of the interventions that are required. And this is going to be the new normal post-COVID. That is, we have to talk about OER repositories. We have to talk about massive online courses. In fact, I'll talk about now why MOOCs, why OER will not suffice. That's also we need to look into. We have even a lot of DTA channels available, 34 DTA channels under Swayam Prabha project of Ministry of Education, where also again a lot of content, fresh content is generated every day. You need to look into these content that are available and again made available freely, which are archived every day, which you can go through. And then I think the future is towards open online education. So when we talk about OER, in fact, it was found that it's not enough. It was important also to see that we have open courses. Because, and the best example is NPTEL itself. NPTEL, it was developing OER content. Now today they talk about, when we talk about NPTEL, it is not the OER. It's the MOOCs that we have, that is NPTEL open courses. They started in 2014. So there is a changeover happening. So when we talk about OER, it's actually gradually there is a shift that we talk about massive open online courses. So these are open courses. So actually OER and MOOCs go hand in hand. That is very important. And why, in fact, actually, there is a move from the resources to learning. So as OER, you have the resources available, but you have to also focus on the learning part. So you need the MOOCs to be inside. So you need to have the learning happening. So for that, the resources are required. So that's why I'm saying that OER and MOOCs go hand in hand. So focus from institution is moving more towards the learner, from media to the engagement. So if we are talking about OER, simply having content is not enough. How you engage learners using the online resources that are available, that's very important. And from just simple adoption, you have to move towards discovery. So that discovery tools like the National Digital Library of India, that's a best example that we have today. Lot of emphasis on that is required. So basically, when we talk about the thrust more towards open online courses is coming in. And if world over, and actually the surge started in 2012, and if you look into that, a lot of changes happened over the years, in fact. And if you go by the registration count, so many learners are, in fact, especially in during the COVID, a lot of registration happened, and the numbers, are really something that sprung up in a big way, in fact. And in fact, if you look into Swayam itself, we had 18.9 million registrations happening during this COVID, in fact. Basic problem is that, see, when we talk about MOOCs, we talk about massive open online courses. When we talk about this open that is there in the MOOCs, open in the sense that it's open for all to, I mean, it has two connotations. One is open for all to register and go through it, and open in the sense that you make available open content that is course as that is available as OER. But over the years, what we see that the trend is changing. Massive is not there. We are talking more towards college credits, credentials, and degrees. A lot of regional providers are coming in. And the interesting part is this standalone course concept is going away. And now the trend is towards paid-only courses. Major providers that they were providing free courses, online open courses, are no more free, and they have, I mean, monetized. And as we brought in the certification, credentials, and credits, online degree concepts into the MOOCs, the monetization started, in fact. And in fact, Dhaval Shah, whose blogs actually about, gives it through Class Central, the status of massive online courses. He talks about this is a second wave of MOOC that has happened. So more emphasis towards certification. So you earn your credits, combine them, and you have a certificate available. It could be a micro credential, it could be a micro master, whatever you talk about. Coming a bit about the SWAYAM platform, that the massive open online courses which we talk about is the India MOOCs that we have. It started somewhere in 2016, and a lot of content. Right now we have more than 3,000 courses available, made available, and these are the partners that are there, who are the providers for the online courses. And the major partners are NPTEL, UGCCEC partnering for the UGPG level non-technology courses, and IGNOU. These are the major partners, and at the school level we have NCERT and NIS offering courses. Over the years, in fact, this is what has happened, the enrollment status. I mean, so around 2,075 unique courses till the July session, July 2020, they were offered. And in fact, total enrollment has shot up like anything. And even 59 lakhs of unique users registered during the period, in fact. And I mean, this is how things are moving towards, and you need to know also. Another important thing is SWAYAM is not just a platform of offering independent online courses, open courses. It's also a platform for offering as such. So we have something called SWAYAM Vertical 2, which actually, if any institution is interested in running their online programs, they have a ready-made platform like SWAYAM, where it serves as a learning management system where you can offer your online programs, complete program on that. A uniqueness of SWAYAM is that the contents that are made available, they are available in 4 quadrants, where we have high quality videos, audios that are there, supported with e-content, that is self-instructional material in distance learning term that we use. And it can be actually not necessary that you have to create your self-instructional material. You can think of available OERs that are there or open access materials linked to them and provide in the SWAYAM platform. Assignment as a self-assessment, and as well as other things that can be there. The fourth quadrant is the discussion forum, that the interactivity of this comes in. Another important thing is whatever videos, audios that we have, they are getting transcripts have to be created. And this why we are going in for transcription is because this is now getting translated into 8 languages. So in the next session onwards, you will be getting all the SWAYAM courses available. Gradually all getting into 8 languages, Indic languages that are there, the popular ones, in fact. And if someone goes for the certification, they have to go through examination that is conducted by NTA. So these are the languages in which all the courses are getting translated. We have Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Bengali, and Gujarati and Marathi. So all the courses in future you will have available in different languages as well. The certification in SWAM is through examination, and it follows, it's aligned with the requirements of UGC and AICT. And this is the way the exams are conducted through NTA, a proctored examination, where you have facility of CBT as well as pen and paper examination as well, especially in case of UGC courses in humanities and social sciences. It's actually pen and paper examination. We certified, the certificate is issued for a SWAM online course. And this gets, why it is important, I'm coming to it. In fact, this is part of the Gazette notification that came in 2016, issued by UGC. And similarly, in fact, AICT also issued a Gazette notification which talks about 20% of credit mobility, talks about credit transfer. So anyone going through a SWAM course can can actually ask for transfer of their credits for earning a degree. Why this is important is another important concept as a follow-up of NEP, that is ABC, that we call Academic Bank of Credits. Now, at the moment, the provision is for 20% credit mobility, but very soon, I think within a week or two, you will be hearing about 40% of credits. So which means that a learner can actually have their academic bank of credits available, where they can actually earn credits through the SWAM courses. And then this can be used towards a degree or a diploma or certificate, whatever it is. Why it is important is that now, and especially from the ODL context, the importance is that, like, if you are running, you are coming up with a new program, and if you want to, you may not have a specialist in developing in a particular topic or a or a course, then you can think or ask your students to register on SWAM and ask for the credit transfer, and you can actually, you can design your curriculum as per that. In fact, a lot of activities over the last 2-3 months happening where actually both UGC and AICT, they have started mapping all the SWAM courses with the curriculum at different levels. This is something very important, which means that henceforth, when you redesign your curriculum or offer a new program, you can think in terms of taking some courses from SWAM and some courses you develop yourself. Especially this is important in a sense that it gives a graded mobility. Another important point is that in the new education policy, it talks about multidisciplinarity and it talks about interdisciplinarity. How do you build in? So if a science student has to take up a course in humanities, where do they get in? So they can look for the courses that are available on SWAM. These are open courses, anyone can register and ask for credit mobility. So this is how things will be working, and this is the future that is happening, and we have to get ready with this kind of a provision, in fact. So the faculty now have to get back, think over and redesign their curriculum where they can integrate OERs, where they can integrate open courses that are available and make it available. So in fact, this will help you in avoiding duplications. And ready-made content is available. What you need to do is vetting at your end, maybe some level of customization required, and offer it for your purpose. And in fact, we are waiting for the Gazette notification from UGC, which talks about, earlier we had 20% more credit mobility. Now very soon we will have 40% of the credit mobility. Another important thing is, if you look into the guidelines of open and distance learning and online education that has been issued by the UGC recently, that is in 2020, which again talks about that, and it's giving you permission to use 40% of the content that is already available as OERs or open courses to offer any program. So which means that if you don't have experts in a particular subject, why not look for courses that are easily available and use it? So that's very important, one need to look into. So in distance learning, we have been talking about blended mode. When we started using, our main focus was on self-instructional material, face-to-face counseling, audiovisual material, radio, television that are there, web radio, web TV, all those things were there. But what is now moving on is, I think gradually, and this whole thing started with the OER content development that started with NMEIC, we started talking about 4-quadrant approach. So this 4-quadrant approach, in the term of the OERs, in fact, a lot of content, they are available. Why not repurpose as per your requirement, and you get a complete package. It's not just the self-instructional material or just simply a video. You have a complete package for course-related material available. Integrate them and use it for your purposes. In fact, even if we talk about the continuous assessment, a lot of quizzes, assignments, and other activities are already available. Repurpose and reuse it. So, when we talk about adoption of OERs, I think we need to look into also the 4-quadrant approach that is there. So when you see easily packaged material that are available in the form of self-learning material, combined with multimedia, combined with self-assessment, or continuous assessment, combine them and create your own courses. That's what I think as ODL practitioners you need to look into, and that will actually open up the way you go, in fact. So in IGNOU, in fact, what we have done, given a thrust, our course material all are available on eGyan-Kosh, and in fact we have a mobile app also, where also all our self-learning material is available. What we are given, a decision in Board of Management was taken that we will give 15% fee concession go for the digital material. So regular ODL learners, the fees that they are paying, a person who opts for only digital content, which means that we don't have to send them the print material, they're getting 15% fee concession. This is how the combined 4-quadrant content that gets into, especially from the MOOCs point of view or on the SWAYAM that are there. We have a structured content available which is actually redistributed into weeks, where in each week you can put in your videos, audios, your text material. You can put in a lot of OERs that are there, and this is how you can actually structure. You have the quizzes already built in that can be taken, and support with online counseling. And once you go with the SWAYAM courses and you have online counseling built in, I think you are ready also to offer online programs, in fact. So think in that terms. And we have combined actually our own learning management system using Moodle with SWAYAM, integrated them together to offer our online programs. And what we are doing also, a lot of other platforms that we are seeing, that very low cost delivery mechanisms using Facebook to a great extent. If you just check our Facebook page, IGNOU's official Facebook page, you will see that Facebook live sessions happening on all working days, at least 2 hours, where faculty come and deliver. So you have ready-made content available, and this all what we do is immediately we make it available on the eGyan-Kosh platform. In fact, another tool that we have actually started, podcast. That's another facility, and a lot of content that's getting generated under the podcast is made available. This is another interesting platform that the university has come up. We call it as Web-Enabled Academic Summit. It's nothing, just a Google suite. As a faculty can have a look into it. What is done is a single page where you have using different tools, and you can think of because I earlier mentioned about a platform. This could be a very good platform where you can integrate all the OERs that are there, the self-learning material, videos, audios, what are there. You can interact with your learners and actually as a faculty, you can have control, especially from the ODL point of view, you have control over your learners. This is how one can think of, and it's very low cost. In fact, nothing is required. All the platforms are free. If you have a Gmail account, you can create such kind of a platform, in fact. Similarly, many of the faculty here in IGNOU, what they are doing is they are using Google Classroom, again combining OERs, other resources, and interacting with the learners using that. So these are the ways that opens up when you go in for. Now let us look into what are the major issues and challenges when we talk about the OER movement that are there. I think that's where we need to direct our attention for easy adoption of the OER. And I think SEMCA, as well as, as a part of COL, they are actually focusing on that and helping us out in a big way, in fact. So one is the intellectual property rights and digital rights management, which is limited resources are available. So availability under open license, that is somewhere one needs to look into. A lot of content available under Creative Commons, but they are very restrictive. You talk it about it has open Creative Commons license, but it may not be OER. It could be just open access that you have, just access. So it depends on the level of licensing that has been there. I think that's very important. And I think today when you have the Creative Commons licensing sessions, in fact, you will understand the levels of restrictions that can be put in, which can restrict you from using the OERs that are there. So we won't call them as, there are platforms available and there are some experiments done like the OER Commons, Creative Commons Search, and OCWC Course Finder. And similar platforms are required and needs to put forth. Another important thing is we lack the culture of sharing and reusing, and this needs to be developed to a great extent. And why this is happening is that we don't have the awareness. Faculty need to understand that you actually win if you share. It's not that you are doing away with your content, and one should know that that doesn't mean that you lose out your intellectual. You are the original author, and that remains, and attributions will be provided. So that is very important. And also we need content. Every time we propose a new program, we'll have so many course writers writing the courses. Why not you reuse whatever is available? Just adopt and adapt them as per your requirement. So contextualize and mapping of curriculum is an important area one needs to look into, and it has a serious implications for teaching learning. And we need to work in different methods where we have assessment and accreditation. I think NAC has to look into as one of the parameters that OERs are being used or not. So for the distance learning system, we did not have the NAC accreditation available. Now it's coming in. In fact, IGNOU is going into it. And actually, this is something where we need to focus, that it becomes one of the major parameters whether the institutions are using OER. So we need to realize that. That's very important. Then user-friendly tools are required. I think we don't have a single platform. I think SEMCA could work on this, where you can integrate a lot of tools that are there so that people can easily create content, author content, share content, reuse content. This is where repackage as per their requirement. This is one area that needs to be focused on. Another thing is just important is we need to look into the open standards and the open formats that we are using. Creating content in a licensed package is not going to help. So if we are creating OERs, one has to share it into open formats also, so that it's reusable, repurposed, and across platforms can be used. And you build in the interoperability that is needed. That's one area that one needs to look into. So what is the way forward? adoption of OER policy by institutions and government. That's most important. In fact, when we talk about government, that with the NMEICT, we had a policy at the national level. But when we talk about the SWAYAM, at the moment, we don't have any policy in place. OER as one of the parameters for quality assurance and accreditation. I think this thrust is required in this. Capacity building of faculty to learn, adoption, reuse, remix of OER. This is one area. I think we talk about what is OER, we talk about, but how to repurpose, how to reuse, how to remix, and what license, how you share back, all these things. I think they need to be trained, and especially if we talk about open pedagogy, how do we go about? I think that's one area that needs a serious focus on. Collaboration and co-creation of multimedia learning content to expand OER base. I think that's where consortium mode has to come in. I think SEMCA can play a great role there, where they can actually think of a platform, form a consortium where collaboration, co-creation happens. I think they initiated, Dr. Manas was working on that. I think that needs to be put forward. Developing a culture of sharing and reusing, awareness building is very much needed. And contextualizing and mapping to curriculum is one area. Already UGC, AICT, they have started the job. I think everyone from institution level also, we need to get forward with this. So with this, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Uma Kanjilal. Actually, now the floor is open for the question answers. If the participants have got any questions, please actually one by one you can raise the questions, so that actually the professor, she will be able to answer those questions. We have about 10 minutes actually for the question answers, and so now the floor is open. Hello.
Good morning. This is Sunder.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, can you hear?
Yeah. You have a question for me?
No, I don't. No, I have only a comment. That was a nice summary.
No, I have opened up the way for you. You have a lot to explain, actually.
I know. No. I would rather leave things unless questions are asked.
Because NPTEL was, for India, it is NPTEL, which is the forerunner of.
The starting point, but anyway, let the others ask questions if they have any.
Yeah, that's true.
I think they should have many points to worry about.
Yeah.
The degree of difference between what is open versus what is free, I think people are not clear about the difference between the two. You have to say free and open courses versus
that's true.
Open courses. What is free is very, very different from what is open.
What is free?
So they do not, I'm sure the last talk will talk about the Creative Commons license policies. So one of the policies should clearly say what is the difference between policy number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's important.
Hello, participants. Any questions? This is the problem daily we face in the class, online classes. We talk, we don't talk at all. We just bang our head on the wall and we get out of it. Daily we face problems like this. I don't know. In the class, you can target and talk a student, but here they're only faced, their logos are available and you won't be able to see who is voting, whether they're sleeping or actually putting the phone here. Are they really listening to that? We don't know what is going on. So this is actually the negative side of actually technology. And moreover, actually, when you watch the screen actually for longer time, and your eyes will get blur, of course, and you have so many problems, of course. So we have both the pros and cons. But yes, we need to use, of course, to supplement our education. We can't actually use only the teacher-led education, and it should be actually definitely blended. And I again request the participants, any questions?
One participant has written, ma'am, is this free course? Yes, from my side it's free, you reuse it.
Yes.
Oh, you mean the presentation, this particular workshop?
Yeah.
This workshop should be making available all the presentations.
Yeah, we are recording, we'll be putting on the university website.
Hello.
They can actually use any time, that's not a problem. It will be available on the library website and also the university website.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, is it audible?
Yeah.
Hello, madam. Good morning. My question is regarding the culture of sharing, because no one is ready to share their materials with others. This is another problem. And second question is, if we are developing any OER materials, so because we are not getting any financial benefit from an institution, neither any recognition. So in this context, we cannot develop OER material, and we are not also ready to share our materials with others. So that's my questions.
First is that you have to actually, mindset has to change. So I clearly said that if you say that sharing, I mean, people think that you lose out your copyright and people will be misusing and all those things. I think that culture has to build in. An institution has to brought in that way. So when you have the institutions in place, and I think, I don't know whether you are aware, if not directly OER, in fact, in the API score, the content that you develop, there is a lot of, if you develop modules under SWAM or even as OER, you have possibilities actually using that for your API scoring. So that's the incentive that is there you can think of. And I think financially, I mean, we get paid with our salary. I think it's high time we think of also contributing. So that is important.
Madam, I have a small question. With regard to assessment of the students who we develop the course and the students register. Now, what is the modulus operandi and the backup support for evaluation? Suppose more than 100 students register. How do we evaluate? Where's the time? And it will become a challenge. So, how is the streamlining for that?
So I don't know which platform you are talking about. If it is on SWAM, then there is a provision that you have teaching assistant who can help you out. So that kind of a thing is there. And evaluation, in fact, in IGNOU, what we do, we have a list of evaluators and they can do the job for you. It's not necessarily you as a faculty, as a course coordinator, you have to evaluate everything. So you can have your panel of evaluators, you must be having already, and you can use them for that purpose.
Lata Shukla madam, any further? Are you satisfied?
She's mic is muted. She has to say,
Yeah, put her mic at mute.
Unmute the mic and speak. No, your mic is...
Unmute the mic, madam. You are speaking, you unmute the mic. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, sir, basically, I missed the answer because there was some problem with the connectivity.
Yeah, okay.
I would request, madam, if I can get to know, because I did not hear.
Yeah. So basically what I say that there must be a process in place. If you are talking about SWAM, we already have a provision that if the number is more than 500, you have teaching assistant you can engage, and they can do the evaluation work. But in fact, what is happening on SWAYAM is most of the assessment is computer based. So you have objective questions and then it automatically gets evaluated. Creating objective questions is a challenge. If you can create and then it eases your work. The other is like for the ODL system, you have your list of evaluators. You can use them for the purpose of evaluation, especially if you're talking about pen and paper examination.
And also the generation and making of the course itself, it's a challenge to hire anybody. It's very confusing in the university setup right now. Like whom to hire, like suppose we want PowerPoints to be made. The things are not really very well defined. And it's very confusing, and the modules take forever to come up, and it's very frustrating to finalize the whole thing because we are not the experts. We know the subject. We have an idea of presentation, but hand-holding has to be done wherein it comes out of the production rather fast rather than, I think that these are bottlenecks.
So there, I think that's where OER works. If you have readily available content, why not use them? That's what exactly we are trying to do.
Very fine. So we take the material from OER and then we acknowledge them. That's it.
Yeah. No, it depends on, because you will have after lunch a session on Creative Commons license policy. Dr. Savitri Singh, she will talk about exactly how you go about it, what level. Even in some cases, OERs are there where even attribution is not required. So once you get to know the levels of licensing, you get a clear. But OER,
thank you very much.
Most of them are available as CC by SA, which means that you give attribution and use it as per your requirement. And once you use it, you share it back. So this is how you can go about. Not an issue.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions, please? Students, any issues? Call us. Hello, any more?
Good morning to all of you.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, yes, Rekha, go on.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yeah, yes, Rekha.
Good morning to all of you. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yeah, yes, go on, no problem.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Dr.
Yeah, go ahead. Waiting for your question.
There is some problem with her line.
She's not giving me line feedback to her. So maybe you can chat, send a chat question.
Yeah, through chat you can put in your question.
Type your question, put it on the chat mode. That should be easier for people.
Hello, madam.
Yeah.
Hello, madam. Good morning. Good morning. It's Dinesh here, madam. Okay, another question is we get from our students that the quality of OER material is questionable, because then while searching internet, we find some OER material having less quality. That means the content is questionable. So how you can deal with this problem, or how you can find a quality good OER material?
The material will be available if they are available as open licenses. If you look into whatever has been developed, which is institutionalized, that is, you get a better content. So whatever content has been developed under the NME ICT, they are of very high quality. Similarly, NPTEL content, you will get high quality. So, but there, I mean, since you talk about OER, many people just develop their content and make it available. So, I mean, it's not necessary that everything will be high quality. So, you are the best judge as a faculty. If you don't find it as satisfactory, don't use it. No one is forcing you to use it. But as I said, I've shared with you, there are a lot of platforms which are there and a lot of content developed. Why not use them? So if you talk about UG, PG courses of your university, you have the EPG Pathshala available. You have the open courses. That is, under the MOOCs, a lot of courses are available. Use them. And you know what, even the SWAM courses, that course material, InflipNet is compiling them and archiving them and making it available. Courses we are all compiling and making it available for even the SWAM courses, we are making it available on IGNOU. I mean, a lot of content, because especially under NME ICT, emphasis was on the quality, and the best of the teachers came forward and developed the content. So have a look into those content. So UGC, CEC, IGNOU, NPTEL, these are the places you should look for.
Thank you, madam.
Any other question?
Good morning to all of you.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful presentation on open educational resources. I used to say about open educational resources in my classes, but most of the students are not aware of such kind of resources. So thank you so much for such kind of wonderful presentation. And I also appreciate Professor Ramaiah, our Dean, for organizing such a wonderful workshop during this COVID, because now these days, most of us are fully dependent on open educational resources. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. There is one question, I think, from Navonita Biswas. Ma'am, my question is regarding NEP. How this will help to the school students according to you? I mean that this is new system after so many years. See, NCRT has developed a lot of content. If you're talking about, they have e-Pathshala, they have lot other platforms. I think actively they're working, and now, from class 1 to class 12, they have exclusive DTH channels under the Swam Prabha project, and every day 4 to 6 hours of content, fresh content is getting generated. So schools will be benefiting from those. So have a look into the OERs developed by NCRT, NIOS, and also the DTH channels, which the content they get archived and made available. So you have a look into them and it will be useful. I think when Professor Mangala Sunder presents, he will be talking about Swam Prabha also and the DTH channels and how you can actually easily use the content that are available.
Any more questions?
I'll say a few words about Swam Prabha. Yeah.
Any more, please? So if nothing, then I would like to thank Professor Kanjilal, actually giving a wonderful presentation, and actually we had a good interaction also. I thought there will not be any interaction, at least some interaction is there. I'm really happy. But this problem with the students is they never interact. They said everything is fine, sir, I'm fine. That's what the standard word which I get in my class. So it's good at least we had some interaction. And with this, actually, I would like to thank once again to Professor Kanjilal for giving wonderful presentation. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we have actually the second the lecture is on integrating the OER in teaching and learning. This is the most important. This is actually both for the teachers and the learners. And we have an eminent actually speaker, Professor Sunder Krishnan. Is from the IIT Madras. He is from the Department of Chemistry and specializes in the area of theoretical and molecular and magnetic resonance spectroscopy and quantum chemistry and quantum information, of course. And he has obtained PhD in theoretical chemistry from Mangala University, Montreal, Canada. And he was also a postdoc there, and he spent long time, of course. And he is from the beginning, he's associated with the IIT Madras. And in addition, he is one of the founder, the coordinators of the NPTEL project, which is one of the most important in the country, and from the 2001 onwards. And with this small introduction, actually, I would like to request Professor Krishnan to take over this and conduct his lecture. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Ramaiah. This is a very nice opportunity for me to speak to a lot of you. And some of you are aware of the educational program online, and the others are finding more information. So I want to thank you and Pondicherry University, your Vice-Chancellor, and all the organizing team for ensuring that there is a whole day workshop that would open up things for open education. There are too many opens everywhere, but we still have to go through them. Unless we use them, the open passage is of no use to anybody. Yes. So how many that we can make use of and how effectively we can make use of are things that we have to do. This is a presentation which I have given several times in the past, but I would still not mind repeating this. So let me share my screen. Let me see. And present to now. I guess that's my entire screen I'll put in. Okay. So you have to give me permission to share the screen, sir. Your host has to allow me.
Not allowed you, sir?
Yeah, it says you must grant permission in order to share your screen.
Oh, okay.
So please give me permission to do that. Yeah. I think the host has to just allow.
Yeah, we are doing, sir. He is doing that.
Uma madam, can you please close the screen sharing so that he can, Mangala sir can join, share his screen?
No, you can also remove.
Uma madam already shared. Can you? Okay. Sir, can you try again?
Let me try again.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's still saying that somebody needs to grant permission.
Okay, just give us a second.
Actually, I think you need to get in through Google, Gmail.
I'm already on Gmail.
Gmail? Then I don't know why it is happening.
But they may not have given me Gmail account. They may have used my Mangala IITM account.
That's why, but you joined in with Gmail.
No, I have also, no, I didn't join as a Gmail account. I think they need to give me.
That's where I think problem is coming, perhaps.
Yeah, probably. Let me see. This is the PowerPoint slide, and they have to. So let me do one thing. This is a Google Meet, isn't it? So I will also sign in another account. Please give me a minute. Okay. I have a Google Scholar account.
Okay.
Just one moment. So I'll sign into my S-Mail, which is a Google. Yes. Okay, so that should be in the Google Go and account. Mangala Sunder at S-Mail as a sign in. Yes. One second. I think it should work. See. Okay, so I have signed on. You will give me permission now. Meeting present now. No, you still have to give me permission, sir.
Oh.
Yeah. signed on to Google account, I'm signed on to my Mangala account. Do you? No, it simply says, I can't share my screen. That's all it says.
Vijay Kumar? Hello? Vijay Kumar? Shibu?
Yes, sir. We are trying, and the option is coming on my screen, and it should be coming on your screen too.
Yeah,
but in sir's screen, it is not coming.
It is.
Do you get any present now on the left extreme corner side? Right extreme corner?
Let me see.
Yep.
Let me see a window. No, either a window or the whole screen. Both are dismissed.
Yeah, there will be three options, sir. Your entire screen or window A tab. If you have opened the PPT, click on a window, select the PPT, and share. Yeah.
No, it doesn't say that. It says two options.
Yeah.
Okay. Both the options are the moment I click on any of the option, if I say my entire screen, it says can't share your screen, grant permission in order to share your screen.
The entire screen.
Just click on entire screen, sir.
I did.
The same message.
One moment. I have clicked on the entire screen. And then let me go into it. No, it says dismiss. Okay, so that is fine. The other thing is the PPT. So let me give myself a presentation window. Now, I have used Google Meet many times, so I don't see this. The problem is basically a permission from your side.
Yeah, at times Mac machines, there are issues. I have seen. Are you using Mac?
Details, attachment, all these things are okay. They are all there. Let me do one thing. Shall I join again? Disconnect and join again?
Yeah, that's fine, sir. Otherwise, you can send your presentation. We will also do the poll.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll also do that. That's easier. So I'm just sending you my presentation at the same email that you sent me in the Outlook. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Ananda Rangapillai email account. Okay? I'm just copying my presentation to you. But it would be nice if I can share my screen because I would like to go to the internet and show things.
Okay.
So it is important that to use that, okay? Now I'm replying. Yeah, just one moment.
If you are forwarding, you can forward to ck.ramaiah@gmail.com also, sir.
Say it again.
C.K. Ramaiah.
C.K. Chandrapati, that's right. C.K. Ramaiah, Chandrapati K. Ramaiah.
Then I will go to the operator.
I have sent it to you, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Now, in the Google Meet, let me try again. Now, and ask. No, it says can't share my screen. So one option is let me get out and rejoin, okay? That's the easiest thing.
Uma madam, can I ask you a question in this?
Yeah, go ahead. Ask the question. Yeah.
No, in this OER, how a librarian can help the faculty and the students? We have a lot of resources. What is the role of a librarian in this OER platform?
See, there are many ways by which the librarian. See, at this point, I wouldn't call a librarian a librarian. I would simply call him as the digital information officer. Okay, and he is basically a digital person because most of your books online, everything, etc., they are now digital. So what you can do is to have, like what I have, one library staff member. Okay, library science student who does metadata on the OER that faculty members identify. What is important is, as a librarian, you must send a circular to your faculty colleagues, invite them to identify reasonably good content on the internet and just send the links to you. From the link and through your search algorithm, you can basically provide simple metadata access. You either use a library software or you use your own customized setup, and you provide links to specific keyword search to specific courses instead of the general question which I share with, I think the question was asked by, if I remember, Lata, who's the person who? Lata
Shukla, sir, yes.
Asked the question, what is the credibility, sorry, no, not Lata Shukla, the next person, Dinesh Maharana, who asked a question about the quality of the content being questionable. I agree with him that a lot of OER that I immediately get myself search, I have problem with the credibility of that, and I have problem with some of the presentation styles. Leave the style, even the content. If the content is not clear to me, if the content is technically not accurate to me, my immediate reaction is drop that link from my list to other things. So it is important as faculty members and as even students to identify what they see on the internet, just like they do in their website. They have a place to store all these things, they bookmark the links in a certain order and in a certain priority. The best link, the ordinary so-so link, and not worth the link. Drop them. I think you have to be critical about what you study, what you teach, and how it is being taught by the others, whether it is acceptable to you or whether there are mistakes in it. I think that degree has to come from the education is before the librarian can act. See, how do you get a good book in the library? Some faculty members recommend to you, right? How do you get a good journal? Your faculty group tells you that these journals are very, very good quality, and then you ensure that it is distributed properly. Same thing happens with the digital library also. It is important for the faculty members to take a call and then put this up. Yeah, I'm still not permitted. So one of you have to upload the presentation and then I'll start my regular. Did you get it?
No, sir, but Gmail, I have not got it back.
Also, I have sent it to you. Yeah, I also sent it to you. Oh, no. Your Gmail has failed. The message is larger than the size. What is your limit, sir?
See, I will actually.
This is 12 MB. 12 MB is not a big file.
No, not a problem, sir. I will give my email ID here.
I'm sorry, I'm delaying you because there is a technical issue that's beyond me. Let me send it to you.
I've given an email ID in chat box, sir.
One moment. Your
ckramaiah@gmail.com.
Yeah. No, first let me look at the Rangapillai. So let me send it from my Gmail ID. You should be able to get it, okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me. CK?
Ramaiah, RAMAIAH.
Yeah, CK Ramaiah.
@gmail.com.
gmail.com. I'm surprised that you didn't get it. Okay, here it is. Yeah, this should go because it says 12.6 MB. Tell me whether you received it now, just now. Yeah, it has gone from my system. You should be able to get it now.
Sir, did you join through the Google account?
Yeah, which Google account? I have a Gmail account.
Okay. So would you mind try it again, please, sir?
Did I take what?
Would you try again, please? This
Yeah, I will do that. But do one thing. The mail account that I sent you, activate that account in my for my link. Okay, Mangala Sunder K. If you activate this, I will rejoin from that account. That should not be a problem. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll sign out of all the accounts now.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I got it, sir, now. Please come downwards. Yes, sir. First, you open the screen share, sir. Yes, sir. Open the browser. Yes. This login is. Yeah. Personal. And there is the user. And there is the user. Select. Yeah, select. But we need to go on that. No, select. Yeah. You open the PPT, sir. PPT. And put up the screen, sir. Press F5, sir. F5. Yes. Hello? Hello? Sir, what is this email?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you.
So you're able to see, sir?
I think you are running my screen. It's okay. I don't have a problem. Okay, can I start now? Sorry, we are.
You can, sir. I'll move the slides. You please carry on, sir.
Yeah, 20 minutes we have been in conversation.
No problem. Time is not a problem.
So the others will have the patience now to join back. Okay? No, please go back. Go back to slide 1. Yeah, I just wanted to tell everybody that these are my email IDs, mangalasundark@gmail.com and mangal.iitm.ac.in. You are most welcome to send any queries, and this presentation will be available with your Dr. Ramaiah, and therefore you can always distribute this to all your participants. Okay? I will be very happy to get inputs from you. Am I audible clearly now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Next slide, please. So I do want to acknowledge the NPTEL team, which began with me in 1999. 2003, we got the first project. NPTEL was the first digital content creation project sanctioned by the ministry. Large number of participants, all the 7 IITs and the Indian Institute of Science. This was followed by the National Mission on Education, which was a major launch by the Ministry of Human Resource Development during the period 2009 to 2016. And of course, the current project has become SWAYAM, which has absorbed both NPTEL and NME-ICT. And I want to thank all the teachers and the students and the colleagues from various walks of life, ministries, all of them. I mean, numbers cannot be counted. Everyone contributed to my learning one way or the other. I am a professor of chemistry and was interested in the use of digital tools and technologies since 1990, when the digital tools started coming in. The macromedia tool came in around the 1991-92 in the market. The Authorware, Flash, Fireworks, and Dreamweaver were the first 4 products that macromedia launched. And at that time, I was in McGill in Montreal, and my colleague introduced me to that. He said, online education is likely to change the world in the next 25 years. Why don't you get yourself trained in some of these tools? And nobody could have the foresight like my mentor, Professor Vice-Chancellor, who suggested that to me. And today, I'm talking to you after 25 years with a considerable amount of experience. Okay? Sorry. So that's the signature for me. Next slide, please. Now, the largest repository in the world, you see the largest online repository, of course, as today morning I did a search, and the first thing that comes in Google is swayam.gov.in. So please keep this. We are not far behind anybody. We are in fact at the top now, though we started in, as a small team in 1999. Today, we are the largest online course providing team. We mean the whole country, India as a country. Okay. Next slide, please. The Swayam, these are all just the first pages for you to understand where the various educational resources are. They are all open, they are free to use, and you can modify them provided you have acknowledged them. And since you got it for free, you also cannot sell it for any cost. Even though there are terms and conditions with which you have to be very careful about. Okay? Those are copyright issues. Otherwise, Swayam platform of the Government of India version 2 contains the largest number of online repository courses in the world. Next slide, please. Tells you Swayam Prabha, which is the television link of 34 DTH educational channels. You can see that here. And these educational channels are 24/7 operative with the lessons, and the plan and the weekly schedule of lectures are all given in Swayam Prabha. And you can choose the channel you want to listen to. The dish is basically a free dish. If you have a Doordarshan connectivity, then you don't need anything else other than one set-top box to channel these frequencies. These are free content delivered on the air 24/7. And the channels are classified according to the subjects. Next slide, please. The second largest open repository in the whole world is MIT OpenCourseWare, which has more than 6,000 courses, but the depth and the detail as well as the services provided by them are very different. And also the quality of MIT OpenCourseWare is fundamentally different. The purpose of that is very different from the purpose of this Swayam. MIT OpenCourseWare is a beautiful window to all the lectures and courses which are taught by the professors of MIT, some of them best in their field, a large majority of them are very, very good in the field of their choice, and therefore you are hearing from the horse's mouth when you listen to these lectures. But they don't have the video collection like the NPTEL and other things have. Theirs is a large repository of text-based lectures, quite a lot of interactive materials as well. But please look into OCW. This is called OCW. And one important thing for you in the OER is OCW and NPTEL were conceptualized within a span of 2 months, NPTEL running the first workshop in 1999, and OCW announcing Charles West of MIT. At that time, he was the provost of MIT. He announced 2 months after we had run the workshop in India, independently announced that MIT would provide more than several thousand of its courses in the next 10 years for public view. 2 independent projects, and both have done extremely well in their own terms, and both are very, very good in quality. Next slide, please. This is the Open University of the UK, which also has the largest number of free online courses. But if you want to study them and register for exams and so on, you may have to pay a fee. A lot of the content is available free for you to view. Again, the videos are not that many, the lectures, graphical lectures are not that many, but extremely high quality content on almost all the subjects that you can think of. Next slide, please. This is the edX, all of you are familiar with. If not, you must know. edX is the joint project, but initially it was started by Professor Ananda Agarwal of the MIT. Ananda Agarwal is a distinguished alumnus of IIT Madras as a BTech electronics engineer graduate. Later, he went to do his PhD in the US and settled down in the MIT as one of its top professors. And he founded the edX as a free platform and as a non-commercial educational platform. Has very large number of courses that you can look into, and topic-wise you can search them. Okay, very, very beautiful, massive open online course program format. Next slide, please. Virtual labs is our own creation in the Indian scenario. These are online laboratories, and the labs are created using simulated engineering and technology platforms. It's a consortium of 20-25 institutions led by IIT Delhi, and the Ranjan Bose, who is now the director of the IIT Delhi, is the professor in the Electronics and Communication Department of the IIT Delhi. He is the founder of the virtual laboratory. Beautiful online simulations for large number of engineering students in many different disciplines. Next slide, please. Central Library of IIT Kharagpur, Professor Uma already talked a lot about it and said how the OER is in. This is also a national project, the National Digital Library Project, which now assimilates. When some of you librarians ask me, how do we find out what is a good quality OER, etc., be in touch with them. Be in touch with the Kharagpur library team. They will also tell you how they do this, and they will help you with all the services that you need. Okay, next slide, please. You can see that in addition to all these studies and other things, India has the largest future skills platform run by MASCOM, which is the IT-enabled services sector skill council that you see here. And this has a large number of skill courses which are directly useful to the students for employment purposes. Many of them may not be open, they may be charged, but they are still available on the internet, and the fee can be reasonably small. And there are a large number of free lecture materials in that website which are directed towards your IT industry orientation and skilling on software, hardware, so many other things. It's one of the largest sites that you can find out. ITES, Sector Skill Council of the Ministry of Skills and Labor. Okay? There are 38 sector skill councils in India, and this is one of the largest sector skill councils. And the other sector skill councils are in the banking industry and all over the disciplines, agriculture, medicine, health sciences, so many. And each sector skill council has future skills program, their skills program, and they are available on the internet in their respective industry platforms. You can search them through. So these are the open educational as well as some for charge educational materials as a first round. Now let's get to the actual talk. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so when do we say that a teaching learning system is to be helped by the open learning open resources, and when it doesn't, we have to go back and look at what we used to do versus what we have to do now. What we used to do is a teacher-driven learning system. You have a syllabus given to you or framed by you in the institution, and the syllabus is sort of fixed for about a few years. And the syllabus contains an outline. It has some details and some preliminary requirements. If you want to take this course, the student should have this background. And then you have a schedule of the lectures, you have the exam schedule, and you have assignments and all the other things. But the yellow thing is usually not explicitly stated. The yellow thing is the outcome of learning. Outcome of learning is never explicitly stressed in the older syllabus. It will only say subjects you will learn, topics that will be taught, that's it. And it doesn't tell you, okay, at the end of this, what do I get? What do I learn? That's not explicit. If you study the topics, you learn practically what you want to learn. It's implicit, okay? That's the old system. Next slide, please. This is quite different from the learner-centric program of the current generation. Today's students are not interested in listening to you unless you tell them, if you do this, you will get this. And the do and the get, if the two are not put together, the students are not interested in listening to you. There are a few percent students who are interested in learning for the sake of learning. And the rest of them have a purpose. And they have a goal, and they have an object. Therefore, it is important that you design programs which are learner-centric. This is where the OER can actually play a fundamental role, because you may not have to create a large number of learner-centric programs in every discipline, in every nook and corner by yourself, but you may take recourse to what is freely available. And the academic institutions, and including credible OER, there are challenges in that. There are technologies which need to be used. There are pedagogies which need to be followed, and there is a mindset of peers and students that need to be taken care of. And fortunately, in all these things, there are directions by the DLIS and the MICT and SPIRE. Can I have the next slide, please? All these things are necessary today, and in COVID-19, students are at home. My students don't like being home. Their parents are watching them every minute. Unfortunately, they were not used to it the moment they came to hostel. They were in colleges, they were free, and they learned when they had to learn. Here the parents are sitting on them to see, why you didn't take today's class? What did you do, etc.? Why are you sleeping? Why are you doing this, etc.? You see, all said and done, the students need to learn when they need to learn, and we need to provide them the service that is better than what we were able to do in the early days. Next slide, please. So let me talk a little bit about the content, design of the content by a teacher to facilitate the learner and to learn just in time. You know, I have classes at 9 o'clock in the morning of Monday, and my examination is 2 weeks later on the Wednesday evening. The student would want to learn on the Wednesday morning. He wouldn't worry about the Monday morning that I taught. He would want to learn it for the examinations the day before the exam. What do you do? Just-in-time learning. How do you do that? So these are the things which allow you to use your own OER creation or your content creation or existing ones. And these are methods that you have to take care of. So the students, I mean, even now when I see that there are about 71 and Professor Ramaiah, so there are 72 people. I assume that all of you are listening carefully and all of you are following it. But I can only assume, I cannot guarantee myself. It does not mean that the students in the classroom actually listen to you when they are in the class. So I disagree with somebody who said a little earlier that all the screens are black and all the voices are cut off, muted. And so I don't even know whether the person is there or has gone out to take a coffee break or gone for a lunch or whatever. That's not important. What is important is when they need it, do you have them available? I think that's today's technology, and that makes it available. And therefore, if they join you when you are delivering the lecture, yes, they can ask you questions about things that they don't immediately understand. But if they don't join you, they can write to you, they can write to other people. There is a chat board, there are other methods by which they can contact. There is a WhatsApp group they can form. And there are so many other ways the social network can function. But what is important for all of them is that there is content that needs to be discussed. That's most important. Therefore, the job of the teacher is to organize the teaching processes and the learning efficacies of the students to ensure that the contents are prepared and are made available. Now, one of the most important questions asked by one of the speakers, one of the audience members, I think Dr. Shukla, if you remember, was how to prepare using IT tools, because universities do not have available setup. I mean, they don't have a mechanism, they don't have methods and softwares can cost. Time is important. We are all experts in the subject, not experts in IT tools and so on. Yes, all these are important. But then please remember, there are so many people around you who know these things better, including your children. Your children know technology much, much more quickly than you are able to. Your students in the classroom, if you give them assignments on preparing specific contents, it's possible for you to eventually do what is called a crowdsourcing among the students who are learning from you. Help them to make PowerPoint slides of the lectures you gave, and that can be used with a slight modification in the next semester or in the next year. Such methods are always there. So the question is, how do I break the barrier instead of worrying about all these barriers are there, therefore I will not be able to do it. Okay? Now, how do we break the barriers? NPTEL did that in the very, very beginning in 1999, 2003 when the project was sanctioned. Between 1999 and 2003, we discussed a large number of possibilities. And the first thing we did in 2003 was to create studios sanctioned by the ministry, at that time the Ministry of Human Resource Development, to each of the IITs. And then we provided staff members because the funding allowed it. Today, you do have a funding mechanism in the SWAYAM. If you are from government arts and science or private arts and science colleges, UGC and CEC is the agency in the SWAYAM platform that you have to approach. If you are in an engineering and technology institution, write to NPTEL that you want to build a course like this, or how do we add this and so on. There are people to help you. If you are in other areas of science, send a note to SWAYAM, the SWAYAM administrator. They will assign you what is called a national coordinator. And then funding is possible if your process is approved. Please remember, this is almost like your project proposal that you send to various funding agencies for funds. You have to be as careful as you prepare your project reports in ensuring that your teaching learning project is supported by the government. Therefore, can we have the next slide, please? Yeah, roll it over. Next, technology enhanced. Keep clicking. Yeah, that's fine. So today, all these tools are, many of them are free. Learning management system is Moodle. If you have problem understanding Moodle, ask your Department of IT students or somebody, 2 or 3 students, tell them small fees, the college can give them a small scholarship. Something like 1,000 rupees a month or 2,000 rupees a month. Ask them to download Moodle. Ask them to set it up in a small server. Connect them in the network. So I think everything has to start at this point of time from home. If not, you connect yourself to a cloud service which provides you 1 GB or something like 10 GB free, and then in the cloud service you set it up. So it is important to have all these elements, the learning management system, the social networking, the online discussion forums. Everything is one module that needs to be opened up. Therefore, the technology today is not something you need to worry about it. It is only that you should know which of the technologies that you need to use. Therefore, you must have a glossary of technology tools and their capabilities. That's most important, and that level of learning is absolutely important in any area anyway. Okay, and then you have online conferencing tool like what we have today. Zoom. 40 minutes of Zoom is free, and Zoom is not a Chinese product. Zoom is created by a Chinese American registered in an American system. It is an American product, and the cloud servers today rest in the US. Therefore, initial worries about the Zoom capturing everything and the secrets and other things, we don't need to worry about. That's free. Microsoft Teams is available for a certain amount of basic free time. WebEx is available for some of these. All these are online conference tools. Latch on to one of them. Don't worry about knowing all of them. Learn one well and then start using it. Okay? This is how OERs can be basically incorporated in your teaching learning processes. Next slide, please. Let's go back a little bit in time. You will see that all these things that we talk about today about OER, online learning, take-home, in-house learning, hands-on learning, just-in-time learning, and outcome-based learning. Aurobindo said all these things in 3 principles. Okay? First principle, please. Next one. First principle of teaching: nothing can be taught. Okay? That's a bad one. If we have to start our life with the idea that we cannot teach anything, then why are we there as a teacher? But please remember, the explanation is below. That's a philosophical statement. The statement says that the teacher is not an instructor or a taskmaster. He's a helper and guide. This is the current generation. His business is to suggest and not to impose, not the school teaching the pedagogically strong requirement that you should learn A, B, C before you can write D. No, it's not to impose. He does not actually train the pupil's mind. He only shows him how to perfect his instruments of knowledge. He shows him how to acquire knowledge for himself. Therefore, your objective in teaching and learning is not teaching, but teaching the students to learn by himself or herself anything that they want to learn. Therefore, teach them the methods of learning, not necessarily the content. Next slide, please. The mind has to be consulted in its own growth. It's something that we don't like, we don't practice in India, but I think in the West, this is generally acceptable. Everyone has in him, okay, Aurobindo wrote about him. Him means also her, okay? So there is no gender inequality here. Everyone has in him something divine, something his own, a chance of perfection and strength in however small, yet sphere, which God offers him to take our refuge. The task is to find it, develop it, and use it. The chief aim of education should be to help the growing soul to draw out that in itself which is best and make it perfect for a noble use. Therefore, identify your students for the talent that they have, ask them to perfect. Don't ask a student who has 3 Idiots is a very, very good movie in principle. I mean, the fact that it made fun of colleges and teachers and something is outside of all of that. The principle is, if a student has a talent for a certain thing, the institution has the necessity and the fundamental requirement to ensure that that talent is blossomed into knowledge and into the perfect use for the society. Therefore, do not force your children to become, to aim for doctors if they are painting, to aim for engineers if they have a very nice way of dealing with the human sensibilities. Find out what is best in the children. Do not think that today only those 2 professions will give you jobs. See, COVID-19 has killed all those jobs. Okay? Therefore, don't worry about it. I think if the children are good in what they want to learn and you encourage them as parents and as teachers, the rest is the mind has to be consulted in its own way. Third principle is the most beautiful principle for today. Next one, please. To work from the near to the far, from that which is to that which shall be. Please remember, today, you as teacher do not understand the IT tool, perhaps. Then tomorrow, all the students or viewers use only IT tools. So what should you do? From where you were, from near to the far, from that which you are, no knowledge of IT, to that which shall be, that you will be an IT expert teaching the students in their own language, in their own terms. That's one example. I mean, that's a very sort of a ludicrous example, but the point is, you build the skills from where you are to where you want to be. And the purpose of education is to provide the necessary steps and the necessary processes for them. It is God's arrangement that they should belong to a particular nation. They all have to be Indians or Chinese, or doesn't matter. That's a local arrangement. Age, society, that they should be children of the past, please remember, and possessors of the present and creators of the future. The past is our foundation, the present is our material, the future is our aim and summit. I mean, there is nothing other than these 3 principles which mitigate the entire educational field and the entire field of human endeavor. Next slide, please. A little bit of the story. Earlier, teaching was done by scholars and to the young people, and the gurus were there. And the young people were focused in the classrooms. Of course, in the West, they were classrooms, and in the East, it was curriculum. And then learning was undertaken by the same scholars, obviously. I mean, how did they become scholars? Obviously, they had learned before the students. They had practiced the learning. And so many years before, and they continued to learn so as to teach. So who is first, the student or the teacher? The teacher was a student, and therefore, who taught him? We can't find the answer, okay? So this is a cycle. The point is, break the cycle by starting from where you are to where you want to be, and you want to be a scholar, you keep learning. Today, a teacher who stops learning and saying that he or she has learned enough, I don't need to worry about technology, I don't need to worry about tools, I don't need to worry about this is what I will teach my students in the classroom. This is what they will have to learn. Such a teacher is not a very, what is called a productive, not somebody who conveys the message. So therefore, you have to continuously learn. You have to continuously learn tools and technologies, just like the way you started standing up before running, you started scribbling before you write, and you understood the alphabets before you understood the words, and then you wrote essays and poems and so on. It is important to continue to learn as teachers. Next slide, please. Therefore, the difference between people who had the experience and the experiments under them and those who didn't have was the only difference. That determined the difference between the learner and the teacher. Today also, I mean, if you don't learn and if your student is smart to go out on the internet and finds the most difficult lesson and says, I have understood all of them, you stand in front of him or her not as a very knowledgeable person. Therefore, it's important for you to continue to learn. Next. Next, please. The teacher-student ratio is something that we cannot live with today in the current system. Please remember our oldest university, the best in the world at the time, Ananda, collected some of those who were remarkably different and made them as teachers. About 2,000 teachers were there for approximately 10,000 students. This is 6th century AD, 1,500 years. The student-teacher ratio is 5:1. Today, you can't have such a ratio. Even 9:1 is considered to be the most eclectic ratio for the institutes of eminence. We have usually 15:1, and between good teachers, knowledgeable teachers and students, it's often 50:1 or 100:1. Also earlier, education in India was on skills and tools and technologies as well as on God and religion. But in the West, the universities and the schools were started largely by theology and religion, trying to control the politics and the society. And you can see that West opened this by theology schools and started teaching religion and strict religious practices before science came in. Science was a dirty word in front of religion for almost 100 years. You know, when Copernicus said that the world is going around the sun, I don't think any religious leader liked it. And when Galileo performed the experiments that both the heavy object and the light object fall on Earth with the same speed, I mean, people did not understand that. Okay, all said and done, science was a demonstration through experiments. Religion was a perceived truth based on one's individual thinking and the perception and the indoctrination that he or she had through his schools. So science was not a word in the vocabulary for many, many years. Religion was the teaching domination. Next slide, please. Experimentation began in around 1550. And you remember this experimentation was done by Navaratnas in more than 1900 years ago. It is somewhere along we have lost to the seventh sense, and therefore we are now looking for it by saying that all the learning is in the other countries, others and so on. Everything was there with us. Today, of course, the recent science and engineering is the outcome of experimentation. And in terms of the arts and humanities, it's not the experimentation as much as the human experiences. And they are very important for building arts, music, social sciences, and many other new subjects. History, politics, everything is, based on the experience of an individual, based on the success of people. For example, history is written by those who win, not by those who lose. Likewise, there's no constancy there. There's no factual information necessary. The winner says what he or she did, and that's the history. Whereas science is not like that. If it is something like G1, M1, M2 by R square is the law, that law is valid. Gravitational law is valid universally. It's independent of who speaks about it, whether Newton said it or somebody else said it. Okay. So there are differences between what are called factual information and then perceptive knowledge. And these two things are important in our understanding of what we teach and what we learn and how we build and look for already existing educational methods. Next slide, please. Okay, I am now coming into 12:46. How much time do I have, Dr. Ramaiah?
20 minutes, sir.
15 minutes off.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. 15 minutes is, I will try to sort of say and then stop somewhere so that it will be useful.
Sure.
This slide can be skipped. Next slide, please. See, yeah, okay, so sorry, I need to go back to the previous slide. Otherwise, the story is not good. Yeah, just go back to me. See, please remember, until the early 20th century, teaching learning was a process for an insignificant population, few students and even fewer teachers, and insignificant number of teachers. Post the Second World War and since Indian independence, we have been witnessing an explosion in student learners, universities, services, business models, industrial growth, technology. But unfortunately, the teacher population is not increasing commensurate to this increase in the requirements for knowledge and dissemination and learning. Next slide, please. All of this was abruptly put an end with the television arriving in the 1970s. And in India, the television started with a beautiful experiment by Professor Yashpal on the television site, Satellite Instructional Television Experiment, which put television as a medium for teaching and learning. And then, of course, in the 80s, email arrived, in the 90s, internet arrived, in the hundreds, 2000, and mobile arrived. And in 2000, the uncle or auntie Google also arrived. And now in 2020, we have the unwelcome COVID, which is also teaching us how to rearrange ourselves, readjust ourselves. So universities today will have to deal with all of these things. And in India, about 100 million students who are born in this current scenario. So you have about 100 courses on the internet. Around 1996, when I started browsing the internet from Canada. And today we have more than 100,000. I think 100,000 is a small number. It's much, much more than that. Several 100,000 courses that are available on the internet. All our information packed to the densest possible level. Next slide, please. However, with all of that, please remember, David Merrill was one of the most well-known educational psychologists and educational exponents about the teaching, about the learning processes. David Merrill has made this beautiful statement that information is just not enough instruction. Instruction is very different from having all the information. Yes, next please. So we do have two methods by which we today assemble our teaching learning processes. The school level, we call it as a pedagogical or what is called a taxonomical processes. Those of you who are familiar with the school teachers will know that they all have to go through a BEd program, Bachelor of Education program, which teaches them educational taxonomy and teaching principles and pedagogical methods. And then those of us who are in colleges, we don't do anything at all. We study our science subjects and then we share our subject expertise and experience to the adults. And the adult learning was very, very beautifully articulated by Malcolm Knowles and in what is known as the andragogical methods. Next, one slide alone has some comparison, which I thought was, yes, please. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, in this slide, you can see what is the difference between learning through somebody and learning on one's own, which is the difference between school education and college education or higher education. So the pedagogical method is more like directed learning. So the role of the learner is dependent. The teacher decides what is to be learned in school and when it is to be learned and how it should be learned. So the sequencing is done by the NCERT or school books or whatever it is. Okay, there is a method. You need to know B before you learn C, something like that. Okay. The primary techniques in education is also transmittal. The teacher will tell you what to do. The teacher will lecture you. The teacher will give you reading material. Today, of course, audio visuals and presentations and so on. But she is transmitting the information to you. And the learning is organized into standard curriculum, first year, second year, third year, and so on. And the learning is subject-centered. You know, you learn biology without ever having to worry about when you will use it. You learn chemistry without realizing that chemistry is what determines all your life for the rest of your life. You don't know anything about that, but that's chemistry. If you don't breathe, the chemistry of oxygen is dead in your body, and that's it. That's the end of it. So sometimes you learn subjects without the real use and applications of them, but you will come to know only at the later part. Whereas the andragogical methods are quite what are called remove the self-directedness and make themselves, essentially independent or self-dependent. So it moves away from the teacher dependency. The teachers are facilitators to this movement. Later, in another 5-10 minutes, I will talk about a flipped class where the teachers are now replaced from the stage on the stage to the guide by the side. This is what we will see that later. These are beautiful faces from people who speak English very well. And then you have this teachers to facilitate, and the teachers share their experiences, and the students learn from experiments and experiences, discussions, problem solving. They learn more by their own involvement than merely by the teacher's influence. OER, fundamentally important in this step, because you tell the students how to learn using existing methods and existing content. Learning organized around life applications. Very often people would want to pick up a specific skill or a specific training that they want to. Somebody who wants to work in a bank would want to do accounting, would want to do IT, security, and all those things. So the learning becomes more self-directed, and the sequences of learning are based on one's readiness to learn. You see the difference between what is directed versus what is self-directed. And then learning is competency-based. Learning is not arbitrary. You know, if I go to MSc chemistry, there is hardly any physics subject that I have to learn unless it is required for my chemistry competency. Okay? It's organized around competency development categories. So today, the teaching learning process must take into account these two things very carefully, and it should also differentiate between the learner's ability to be independent versus dependent. And the teachers have to worry about all these things. Therefore, the resources which are publicly available and the resources that the teachers can verify, document, and certify can be used very, very profitably in all these things. Next slide, please. Anyway, this is my signature slide. I'll come to it at the end if necessary. Please move on to the next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah, this can also be quick. Yeah, this can also be remote. Yeah, you can move on. All these things are. Now, the challenge for the teacher and the learner is the following. When you develop, say, for example, an e-learning content, which will become an OER later, or you want to engage existing OER, you see, it's not a very simple process. It's a time-consuming process. One has to know what exactly one wants to do in the class or the course. You want to teach the whole course, you want to teach a few tutorials to follow regular lectures, you want to give lecture notes or supplementary notes, or you want to identify them, or you want to give them assessment and verify that whatever they are learning is quantifiable, they are responding well, and so on. Or finally, you decided that you want to be the dada on the screen, lecturing for hours and hours and hours, and people will decide when to pick you up on the video. Okay? If you are a good lecturer, they will continue to listen. Otherwise, at the end of the first video, they will forget that you were there. Okay? Your videos may be there, but they won't be there to watch. So there are many different ways. Next slide, please. E-content development also should be targeted to specific audience and groups. You know, you don't simply say, I want to write the history of India, and then you say the history of India starts from whatever period, you know, Stone Age or this and that. No, it doesn't work out that way. Then you say precisely, when I say history of India, what period I want to concentrate, or what purpose I want to concentrate, or what audience I want to teach. All these things are important. So you can see that this focusing in the learning is, even in the content preparation, is based on the elementary course or advanced course, and what are the requirements that the students already should have, what do you expect them to learn at the end of the course. All these things are important in the teaching learning process. Next slide, please. And how do you interact with the students? Today, all these things are important. Few years ago, the students were in your class, and you sent to them lecture notes by print if you were an open university. Those are the only two methods. Today, you have email, you have chat, you have forum discussions, and you have WhatsApp hand raising and questions. All are, you know, you have to involve yourself. I don't like WhatsApp, but my students use WhatsApp. What can I do? I have to use. I don't have a choice on that. Okay. Employ trained teaching assistants. Yes, I do have a teaching assistant who uses WhatsApp better than I do. Therefore, I tell him to do all these things. You know, students are asking this, send it in WhatsApp. So, I mean, you need to use the tools and technologies to interface with the learner, with the person with whom you are engaging in the teaching learning process. Next slide, please. What are the mechanisms? Okay, this is the problem with India, that at the end of it, everything has to be tested and everybody has to be certified. Life does not issue a certificate. Please understand, life is an experience, and you do not know whether you did it well at all until after you disappear from the world. If you had done extremely well, others will still be talking about you. Otherwise, what is the point of getting a grade? I have A grade and I have done this testing very well. I am the superstar. But unfortunately, assessment mechanisms are important, at least for an intermediate stages of learning, whether the student is leaving gaps in the learning or whether the student is able to fill up the gaps and so on. So how do we do that? Continuous evaluation, you bombard them with weekly assignments and questions, or you ask them to take online examinations which are there, and then you have semester examinations, and whether it's objective or analytic, one question by one of you was that if I have more than 100 students online, how do I grade them? Don't grade them. Give them good questions and give a few students, good students who have learned the subject, tell them to evaluate and come back and discuss. Based on that, you give analytic assessment. At the end of the day, assessments are only one of the many indicators of learning. They are not the only indicators. The real indicator is life, which is the third part of the principle of Aurobindo that I talked about. And so all these methods, you can decide with your system, the university system, how this needs to be done and so on. Next slide, please. Why should we do all these things as a teacher? Okay. Well, if you want to learn, if you ask me, I have benefited from asking questions about technologies and about pedagogies and about teaching processes a lot more about my subject than if I had never asked these questions. Therefore, in the end, you want to build your knowledge base and your ability to understand science and technology or the subject that you are in. It is important that you ask all these questions, and you also interact with students, not just with your institute, who are anyway your cohorts, because they will be with you, but students who are outside of your institute and who are looking up to you often to see, oh, there is a course by him, I want to listen, I want to read, that kind of. So what motivates you is purely to be available to a learner and to drive the learner in a positive form. Okay, next slide, please. And let's not worry about what demotivates. These are all economic related. Yeah, next slide, please. I don't agree with any one of these explanations, but even though I put this down as part of my review, we can also go to the next slide. These are not relevant immediately for today's. This is important from the institutional point of view, that to allow faculty to participate. For example, IIT Madras today is a leader in digital space, partly because the institution supported the faculty in every possible way. NPTEL and other projects were basically driving the faculty members to use these resources. So it's important. Institutions must accept the responsibility for running e-learning programs. Today they can't say no, because that's the only way you are reaching out to students. Therefore, this is the time to also find out everything that's wrong with what you have done and what can be done right in the next 3-4 months. These policies should be constantly discussed. And then information to faculty. You have to give faculty regular meetings and discussions and seminars about online learning. And you must provide training and instruction support to the faculty. This is missing, but I think the larger universities are today taking classes for their faculty members and providing training from those who already know how to prepare e-content and so on. So institutions have to move proactively. Today on the network, all you need is a PC and an access to the internet and a supposed connection with one of the experts. The experts also usually teach from home. They don't have to travel. Most of them will agree to a session for helping everyone. So you have to do this, encourage faculty to adopt technology in their own online classrooms if you want. You need, this is of course regarding the regular classrooms with internet facility, documents, etc. I do. When I run a class, in that class, that machine has an internet access to it. So suddenly I move away from one of the lessons. One class, which I remember, was so well remembered by many of my students was about the video editing and the tools and technology in chemistry. But it was our chemistry students, so I wanted to tell them. So I played the regular lesson, and then I told the students, let's go to the YouTube and I will play you a movie, okay, small video. And remember, this video is, I don't know, I mean, many of you might not know, Shivaji Ganesan was the best known actor, and he was also this Baba Sahib the award winner from the Films Society. And Shivaji Ganesan is dancing to the most Kolavari song. I don't know how many of you remember this, about 6-7 years ago. That song was making waves everywhere. This was a song that was prepared, was auditioned or done by Dhanush, Rajinikanth's son-in-law, and his daughter, Rajinikanth's daughter, I believe. If I remember, they were involved. And they have this beautiful Kolavari song, and then somebody in the internet picked up that song and picked up a lot of clip arts from Shivaji Ganesan's old movies, and then he simply put a beautiful video called Kolavari by Shivaji Ganesan. If you have time, please look into it. If you understand the song, you will understand the Tamil movie, then only you can appreciate, otherwise you will see in periphery something really beautiful. What is important is imagination, and allow students the discussion, give them things to think about. It's not a class is not always a class focused on only teaching and what the subject is. Align to it. Give them examples. Ask them to jump around. Sometimes it really changes the atmosphere. And the next class, the students attend to you much more carefully, much more attentively, thinking that you will bring them again something else which is that they like, which is also related to the way of education team that can work with. Okay? So this is of course not connected with the slide, but what is important is the student participation instead of faculty participation. If I have to talk about student participation, you must bring the student to the table, okay? Whether it's online or offline. Next slide, please. Okay, let me skip this because today the students have to do everything that we are asking in these slides. Can you fast forward quickly? Yeah. Next, please. Yeah, okay. You can stop here. Yeah. So what we do using the online resources and teaching resources is, let's usually we all take up what is called one learning management system. And the Moodle here, which I used at IIT Tirupati fairly extensively when I taught for 1 year, the Moodle is the modular object-oriented dynamic learning environment. That's what Moodle stands for. And it provides an interface for you to build your entire teaching learning process and the content and the assessment tool in one platform. And this platform can be accessed by the students 24/7, depending on the permissions you set. Therefore, it is important as teachers and as educators to be familiar with a learning management system. This is one of several learning management systems which are available. Next slide, please. There are some examples that I have in these learning slides. Okay, I have scheduled my lectures and classes and some videos I have taken from the internet. Next one, please. Weekly schedule, you can see that. And these are the lecture videos and the flash movies that I created. And next slide, please. There are many such examples that I have done. And then a quiz, for example, I have given the quiz in the next one. The students' multiple choice questions and the multiple attempts that they make. Finally, I get the statistics where the students have difficulty and so on. And so these platforms are very, very robust today. Next, please. And then, of course, I use a lot of animation. I'm not going to show any of them here. They are content specific. I use a lot of 3-dimensional and 2-dimensional animation in teaching physical chemistry to my students. And therefore, that's where I started getting myself involved with the teaching, online teaching learning methods. And so if you can skip the next couple of slides, they are all about this. Sometime when we have more time to discuss, we will do that. Yeah, please skip this. Skip this, please. Yeah, next, please, next. Yeah, these are all about me. And I do record my videos where possible. And in general, this is the organizer. The Moodle is a sort of an organizer, and also you can use PDF and other things to organize these lectures and put them into some form. When she talked about the 4 quadrant, Dr. Uma, she mentioned some of these things as part of the different quadrants. Yeah, we can skip all these things. Yeah. Next, please. Now let me come to the, this whole book I will leave because Professor Uma talked more about the book in her presentation. So maybe the next, let me tell you what the next few slides you need to skip. Tell you what slide you need to go to. We are somewhere on the slide number, let me see. This is slide number 51, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can skip all these things. You can go to slide number 71. Slide number 71, please. Yeah, that's right. No, the one before. Slide, the one before. The https swayam.in. One before this, I think. Yeah. So you can see that today, Swayam contains a lot of OER for you, a lot of these things, and it has also certificate examinations, content creation, video lectures, assignments, hangouts, the faculty, teaching assistants helping them. There are so many NPTEL and Swayam online courses. So my request to all of you is that please visit this, register yourself, either as a teacher or as a student, but go through these websites very, very carefully and very painstakingly to understand more than 4,000 teachers who are already part of the system and who are already taking the first steps to understand the electronic teaching learning process. Next slide, please. I'm almost done. Another 5 minutes I should close. The online teaching learning strategies for the classroom, these are the most important. It is important to have a learning management system. It is important to do what was called the reverse class method. I wouldn't have time to talk about it, but I will mention this briefly. The taxonomies in content design is something I discussed very, very briefly. And the educational social networking is very, very important, that you are part of a community of learners whom you mentor and you guide. And that's how the OER becomes very effectively used in the teaching learning process. And finally, of course, you have to correct yourself and therefore take the user feedback to rectify the mistakes of the past and to fine-tune, if you use resources, to fine-tune your resources so that the next batch of students will not have the same problem. It is important that the student batches give you problems which are different from the previous batches, because those problems you would have resolved in the current presentation of the subject. So that's a teacher's job, is to learn from batch after batch what were the difficult areas and how do we plug those difficulties so that the new batch of students will have a newer set of difficulties and issues that they will point out, which eventually makes you as one of the best teachers in the whole process, using the environment in which you've been lost. Yeah, please go ahead. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is all about flipped classroom. So let me stop here at this point. If you go back to the last slide, probably go back to 83, slide number 83 if you can.
Previous, sir.
Last slide, 83, last but one. I think I have 84 slides. Yeah, keep moving. I don't need all these things. These, the individual faculty members can go through in detail. Yeah, right here, okay? No, I said all these things and I'm going to contradict myself by saying what I said for the last 45 minutes, okay? It's not a contradiction, but it is something that is the fundamental teaching learning process which you have to understand. What OER stands for, what the process stands for, is given in this one beautiful paragraph by Professor Richard Feynman, who was the most famous physics teacher as well as a Nobel Prize winner in 1963 for his fundamental discoveries in quantum electrodynamics. He has a series of lectures which are published beautifully as 3 volumes of lectures on physics. And you can see in the foreword, he has the following to say. This is what he says. I think, however, that there isn't any solution to this problem of education other than to realize that the best teaching can be done only when there is a direct individual relationship between a student and a good teacher. A situation in which the student discusses the ideas, thinks about the things, and talks about the things. It is impossible to learn very much by simply sitting in a lecture such as this one, or even by simply doing problems that are assigned. You should be very happy that I'm not giving you problems. But in our modern times, we have so many students to teach that we have to try to find some substitute for the ideal. This is 21st century. When he talked about this was 1962. Okay? He talked about so many students. 180 students in a class that he said was too many students to teach. Perhaps my lectures can make some contribution. This is OER, Open Educational Resource, because that book is available today in various forms, even for the smallest of prices. And I think it is also a classic literature, so you can actually download from the net. Perhaps my lectures can make some contribution. Perhaps in some small place where there are individual teachers and students, they may get some inspiration on some ideas from the lectures. This is the teaching learning process that we talk about all the time using the OER. Therefore, it is not just Feynman's lectures which will be the OER. Every one of you, if you work very hard, and if you give good lectures and you record them and you register them and save them, they can all become open educational resource. And some teachers in some corners in the remote place where the students do not have anybody else to, they will sit down and discuss this. Perhaps they will have fun thinking them through or going on to develop some of the ideas further. Okay. So the crux of it is there is a one-to-one relationship which has to be mimicked in the current scenario as a one-to-many, but this one is no longer a one teacher, but one internet, which has millions of teachers. That's the OER, and the teaching learning process is the process that you design in order to teach your students and in order to teach yourself well, so that at the end of all of this, we have a society that is knowledge-based. All the best to all of you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm done.
So we are back to the...
Yes, you are back to screen one.
Dear participants, any questions to sir? It's really stimulating and exciting lecture, and it has covered actually the most of the areas. Hello. This is where I get actually disappointed because they don't participate at all.
No, don't worry about it. I think everybody has, they have to think about the questions, because I also went through a little bit fast.
Yeah.
But I would like to say all the things and many more, given that there is a time and there is also a certain limit in our ability to take things from the internet, from watching a screen and so on. We can only take so much. Therefore, do this in increments. Go back and listen to these lectures, today's lecture programs, maybe for 20 minutes, the first lecture, write down something and then forget about it, go back, come back and start where you stopped from, and then do this so that you learn over a period of time what was discussed in one day that would have been the substance for a whole course. Thank you. Yeah.
So, participants, any questions?
Go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Dinesh, yes, please. Dr. Dinesh, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. My question is how you can integrate OER while we are teaching in physical mode or in face-to-face mode. I'm teaching right now.
Oh, you
so
do. You do that.
Yes.
Yeah, you do that in the flipped mode. What you do is, suppose you do a face-to-face class teaching. What you can do is, you can either have your lectures somewhere earlier, or you identify for your course maybe about 10 very good lectures from the internet, which you think are very good. Keep them with you, give the links to the student, and ask them to go through the lectures. I mean, give them a week's time if you want them to read something from outside. And then you call them back to the class, and you don't teach in the class, simply ask questions about the lectures, and maybe you distribute a small question paper. Surprise them with something like multiple choices, which I always do in my flipped class. What I do is I give them a video lecture to look at 3-4 days before. And then I don't tell them that there will be a quiz on them. But the quiz is not an exam. The quiz is something that they will sit together and discuss among themselves as groups for the answers to the questions that I ask. So that as a group, they learn from each other the responses. And if one student had read the lecture, listened to the lecture, he or she can guide the other students. And you see, after some time, the students who do not read lectures regularly will be trained by themselves and will start looking at these lectures also by themselves, so that they will participate in their own group discussion. Okay? So it is possible to flip the process of teaching learning. This is called a flipped class or a reversed class, where all your lectures are available to the students outside, either as OER or as links. And then the classroom is a discussion room, instead of you lecturing in the class and asking the students to solve problems at home. Okay? Reverse the method. And this method is called the flipped class. It has been very effective in many small classes, a class size of up to about 100 students. You can very effectively employ this. Okay?
Okay, so thank you very much. Last question. How you can integrate in assessment, right? How you can integrate OER for assessment?
Yeah, the assessment is like this. Suppose you want the OER assessment, okay? Suppose you have lectures in the public and you want to give some questions and you want to know whether the students learn. Don't correct the answers of all the students, okay, when they do. What you do is you set up the questions, ask them to give the answers, collect the answers. What I have done is, I will give them a deadline. Say, this quiz, background quiz I give you today, based on the lessons of the last 4 classes. Now, you can finish it today or you can take it home. Discuss that with all your friends and others, whoever. Come back, but every one of you must submit an answer sheet. I don't care if it is a copycat of everybody else. I don't worry about it. But you must write an answer on your question and you must give it to me, okay? You collect them. Don't correct them. You give the answers to the questions that you asked as one answer PDF and put that answer back to the students. Say, go back and look at the answers you guys have written and go back the answer, look at the answer that I have given. You look at what mistakes that you made. I'm not teaching you, I'm asking you to learn to yourself. Therefore, assessments can be beautifully done if you provide only the answers to the assessment after you force the students to go through a process. And in that process, they will eventually get better, and the more interesting students will see this as a competition. In the class, you may want to teach 100 students. Only 10 of them will become leaders. It is those 10 you never want to miss. Why? You don't want to leave the remaining 90 of them stay in the rut. You also want to care for them. Therefore, you give them all the learning methods. The faster ones will pick up faster. The slower ones will remember that this is how I have to learn. So assessments can be done that way. Multiple choice. Don't give a multiple choice question with one correct answer. If in a question you say, there may be more than one multiple choice answers which may be right, which may be approximately correct. Identify all of them. Then all students lose the elimination mechanism in one shot. They cannot eliminate wrong answers because they don't even know which one is the wrong answer. Okay? If they know that there is only one correct answer, they will all look for all the wrong answers, not necessarily the correct answer. Okay? But if you say your question has all the 4 answers approximately right, you must tell them why all 4 are right. So the teaching learning process assessment, without you having to assess anything, you provide the problems and solutions in such a sequence that the learner assesses himself or herself, and therefore you can integrate this process very seamlessly during your course of it. Of course, you have to give a final examination, you have to give a grade and so on. That you do based on your university regulation or whatever. But the class of 40 lectures or 35 lectures that you do, you make the class enjoyable for the students because they realize that they have to participate and not simply be sitting dummies, half asleep, talking to somebody else or Wi-Fiing to somebody else and so on while they are physically present because they have to give attendance to the class and so on. Leave all those things. Those who are interested, you make them interested to learn. So there are different ways of doing all these things. You have to experiment.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you.
Any more questions, please?
one examination I gave a question, the final examination. 9 questions were regular questions. And the 10th question was, each student was supposed to frame 10 multiple choice questions and 4 answers to each one of them with only one correct answer and the other 3 wrong answers. And those questions should not be on the basis of what I had already given them. It should be something else. They have to think through one question. You would be surprised. At the end of that examination, I picked up, out of 50 students, 500 questions, I picked up 250 good questions that I could use in the next semester. You have to do experiments in teaching and learning. You should never be idle. There are many people who teach you how to run higher education processes. You have to sit down and look at all these articles, all these people. If you enjoy teaching, you have to make sure that the students are on the tender-hook all the time with you. Okay.
Any more, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, you have a question. There's somebody in my account. Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
Any problem from DDPU?
Yeah, DDE, he was trying to speak, but
the voice is not coming down.
Not coming up.
Hello.
Yeah, I think that's okay. We can close this now. And
okay, sir.
Thank you.
So I think they are actually exhausted. They are also waiting for the lunch and then and
yes,
it's actually excellent lecture, and then really big because you took, of course, so much of in-depth covering the subject. And I, from my side, from the university side, I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart actually covering and giving an excellent lecture of educating our faculty members, scholars, and students. And definitely, we would like to collaborate in future because this is only starting, and I will be doing actually in a big way both the DDE side and the university side.
Yeah.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I am looking at both DDE and library together. That's the reason actually I am taking this initiative. Apart from that, actually, I am from the media, as you mentioned, of course. Macromedia, I was using this when the macromedia started, the director, otherware, all those.
Right. That's right.
After some time, because my field changed, actually, I got that is the time actually I was doing presentation to the Dr. Kalam. And I was working with the DRDO.
Okay.
Then I left it and my field changed totally. A lot of disturbances in my own the field, the career, and started moving to some other direction. Thank you very much for giving an excellent presentation, and we are all actually enlightened by your talk. And once again, I thank you very much from my side and from the participant side. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure talking to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So shall I formally exit, sir?
Fine, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All of you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. So now the next session actually will start 2 o'clock. We'll have a break actually till the lunch for lunch, and the next session actually will be covering by Dr. Manas Ranjan Panigrahi, and he'll be talking about actually the publishing platforms, repositories, searching and finding of OER, and followed by 2 hours actually hands-on. And so we'll break for lunch. Up 2 o'clock we'll be reassembling. If you want to leave the connections, you can leave it. Otherwise, you can leave and also reconnect, no problem. And please rejoin by 2 o'clock so that the next lecture will start at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.